Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Fiona G. President Donald Trump addresses a joint session of Congress last night. A media poll finds 76% of Americans approve of his speech. The Supreme Court deals a blow to Trump's pause on foreign aid. Justices have ordered that payments for completed work must resume. The mayors of so-called sanctuary cities testify before Congress. Republican members of Congress accuse them of violating federal law and impeding immigration enforcement. Vice President Vance heads to Eagle Pass, Texas today. He will be joined by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. The Justice Department charges a slew of Chinese cyber actors and intelligence officials, accusing them of waging espionage attacks against U.S. government agencies, news organizations, and a faith group. We have the details of the case.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
The Supreme Court ruled today that the Trump administration must resume payments to foreign aid organizations for work that they've already done. Now, the High Court's 5-4 decision upholds an order to release funding for contractors at the U.S. Agency for International Development and the State Department. Aid organizations said in a Supreme Court filing they, quote, would face extraordinary and irreversible harm if the funding freeze continues. President Trump is pursuing what he has called an America First agenda, ordering a 90-day pause on all foreign aid on his first day back in office. Trump and Department of Government Efficiency head Elon Musk continue to search for and cut what they say is waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government. A new development in the 2021 terror attack in Kabul, Afghanistan, which killed 13 American service members. Bombing suspect Mohammed Sharifullah was captured overseas, and the Department of Justice said that Sharifullah has been charged with providing and conspiring to provide material support for terrorism. The department added that a hearing is scheduled at a federal court in Virginia later today. And now we're taking a look at President Trump's speech to a joint session of Congress last night. Trump tackled tariffs, international cooperation on energy, the fight against terror, and the war in Ukraine. NTD's Daniel Monahan has the key takeaways.
The President of the United States.
President Trump called for an end to the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, making a direct appeal for peace.
It's time to stop this madness. It's time to halt the killing. It's time to end this senseless war.
Trump called out Europeans for what he sees as not pulling their weight.
Europe has sadly spent more money buying Russian oil and gas than they have spent on defending Ukraine, by far.
The president said he received a letter from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky earlier in the day, stating Ukraine is ready to negotiate for lasting peace.
He said, "My team and I stand ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership to get a peace that lasts."
Zelensky also signaled Ukraine's willingness to sign agreements on minerals and security.
Simultaneously, we've had serious discussions with Russia and have received strong signals that they are ready for peace. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Wouldn't that be beautiful?
The president also tackled energy, highlighting international cooperation on a major energy initiative.
My administration is also working on a gigantic natural gas pipeline in Alaska, among the largest in the world, where Japan, South Korea, and other nations want to be our partner with investments of trillions of dollars each.
South Korea's industry minister confirmed Tuesday that Seoul and Washington will form a working group to discuss the pipeline, energy, shipbuilding, tariffs, and trade barriers. Turning to trade, Trump reaffirmed his commitment to tariffs, saying they will boost foreign investment in the U.S. and reduce the trade deficit.
Other countries have used tariffs against us for decades, and now it's our turn to start using them against those other countries.
He said reciprocal tariffs will be imposed on any nation that levies fees on American products.
Countless other nations charge us tremendously higher tariffs than we charge them. It's very unfair.
A series of tariffs, including 25% fees on goods from Canada and Mexico, and 20% in addition to those already imposed on China, took effect on Tuesday, and reciprocal tariffs are set to take effect on April 2nd.
Whatever they tax us, we will tax them. We have been ripped off for decades by nearly every country on earth, and we will not let that happen any longer.
While critics warn tariffs could fuel inflation, Trump dismissed those concerns, calling any impact temporary. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said tariff negotiations with Canada and Mexico hinge on addressing the fentanyl crisis, with an announcement expected as early as Wednesday.
Fentanyl deaths in America need to come down, right? It's black and white.
China responded sharply to the new tariffs, with a spokesperson posting on X, "If war is what the U.S. wants, be it a tariff war, a trade war, or any other type of war, we're ready to fight till the end." Moving on to the fight against terrorism, Trump also made a major announcement regarding the 2021 Abbey Gate bombing in Afghanistan that killed 13 U.S. service members.
Tonight I am pleased to announce that we have just apprehended the top terrorist responsible for that atrocity, and he is right now on his way here to face the swift sword of American justice.
Officials have identified the senior member of the branch of the ISIS terror group based in Afghanistan as Mohammed Sharifullah. Trump said Sharifullah was turned over to U.S. authorities by Pakistan.
From a major energy project to Ukraine peace talks, Trump's address signals significant change ahead. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Senator Elisa Slotkin delivered the Democratic rebuttal to President Trump's address to Congress last night. She called for a solution to what she described as a broken immigration system. NTD's Daniel Monahan reports.
Senator Slotkin acknowledged that America wants change.
But there's a responsible way to make change and a reckless way.
Slotkin says Trump has talked a big game on the economy, but says people need to read the fine print.
Grocery and home prices are going up, not down, and he hasn't laid out a credible plan to deal with either of those. His tariffs on allies like Canada will raise prices on energy, lumber, and cars.
On immigration, Slotkin said securing the border without fixing the immigration system is dealing with the symptom and not the disease.
America is a nation of immigrants. We need a functional system keyed to the needs of our economy that allows vetted people to come and work here legally.
Congressman Al Green was removed from the House chamber after disrupting President Trump's address. About 4 minutes into the speech, Green rose to speak and shook his cane toward the president. He continued his disruptions despite repeated warnings, prompting House Speaker Mike Johnson to order his removal. Some Democratic lawmakers wore pink to Trump's address. Representative Doris Matsui of California posted on X that she was wearing pink, quote, to protest Trump betraying women and families for his billionaire buddies. Members of Congress reacted to Trump's speech afterwards.
They should be defending against this idea that the presidents can impound billions and billions of dollars and shut down departments without being held accountable.
What happened in the White House a couple of days ago saw so many people disavowing it from both sides of the aisle.
Viewers overwhelmingly approved of Trump's address. A CBS News poll found that 76% approved of the speech, with 23% disapproving. CBS noted the majority of viewers were Republican at 51%, with 27% independent and 20% Democrat. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
When we come back, President Donald Trump addresses a joint session of Congress last night, and a media poll finds that 76% of Americans approve of his speech. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
If joint pain from aging is slowing you down, Omega XL can help you get back in the saddle, just like it did for John Walsh.
Today I'm here at my ranch exercising some of my polo ponies. Got to be really fit to ride these horses. So as you get older, it gets tougher. I was starting to suffer some of that business, and then I ran into somebody who said, look, you should try Omega XL, and look what it's done. I feel better than I felt in the last 30 years.
I'm Reve Walsh. I'm John Walsh's wife. I ride fox hunters, and sometimes I'm in the saddle for 3-5 hours at a time. A lot of work out here.
I wouldn't have been able to do this. Muck a stall, throw hay, do all the things that needs to be done on a ranch a couple years ago. But Omega XL gave me the ability to get back in the saddle. It works great.
Once you try it, you don't want to be without it. Makes a huge difference.
It does. Take it every single day, and you know, there's a benefit. It's made you a lot nicer to me.
If you've been living with pain, it's time to get this special offer, the Omega XL, the joint health supplement that millions have trusted for more than 20 years. Omega XL, it's sourced from the green-lipped mussel, exclusively found in the pristine waters of New Zealand, some of the cleanest waters on Earth. Omega XL, it's natural, drug-free, and it's backed by more than 40 years of clinical research that show it really works. Try Omega XL today. Pick up your phone and call the number at the bottom of your screen right now for a special offer. Buy one, get two free. 2 bottles of Omega XL plus Vitamin XL D3, a value of more than $100. But call today and you pay only $39.95. That's a savings of more than 60%. Plus, it's backed by our 60-day money-back guarantee.
Try it. You got nothing to lose.
Call or go online right now to get this special offer. 2 bottles of Omega XL plus Vitamin XL D3 for only $39.95. Call now.
Just like all of you, I had problems sleeping. I had tried every pillow out there and nothing worked. I'd flip-flop all night, use my arm for support, and fall asleep, or I'd wake up with a sore neck or maybe a headache. Well, quality sleep comes from keeping your neck straight at night. You have to fill in that space between your head and your bed. That's why I invented My Pillow. My Pillow's patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs, and it doesn't matter if you sleep on your back, stomach, side, or any combination of all three.
When I got My Pillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get Classic King My Pillows for only $19.98. Queen size just $18.98. Standard Classic My Pillows only $14.98. That's right, only $14.98. Plus all orders $75 or more ship absolutely free.
Welcome back to Newsroom. The White House just held a press briefing moments ago where the press secretary touted President Trump's approval rating from last night's speech to Congress. NTD's Iris Tao joins us now live. Iris, tell us more about it.
Good afternoon to you, Fiona. So just now at that press briefing, the press secretary touted the high approval ratings from President Trump's last night's speech to a joint session of Congress. She cited a CBS and YouGov poll showing that there's a 76% approval rating for that speech last night, adding that President Trump was honest and frank about the economic reality facing the nation. Watch.
Everyday Americans love this president because he tells it like it is, no matter what, and he did that last night. President Trump was honest about where we are while making clear that help is on the way. As the president declared last night, he will make America affordable again.
Last night, President Trump said there will be a, quote, a little bit disturbance coming from his tariff policy when it comes to prices and the economy, but says Americans should be okay with it. He also cited the high egg prices, but he blamed the Biden administration's policies for the current inflation. And thus, as the press secretary says that President Trump not only was honest about the economic reality, but also is trying to do more to solve the issues, including by pushing Congress to pass more tax cuts to put more money into the Americans' pockets, as well as to unleash the American energy industry, for example, by cutting down red tape and regulations to really make that industry prosper. And the press secretary, meanwhile, also announced more updates when it comes to President Trump's tariff policy. For example, she says that President Trump will give a one-month exemption of tariffs to any cars coming in from the USMCA agreement, and saying that that comes after President Trump held a call with the big three automakers at their request. He says that President Trump does not want to put them into an economic disadvantage and thus will give them the exemption, although the reciprocal tariffs will still go into effect on April 2nd. Here's also what she said about President Trump's policy when it comes to tariffing Canada over its lack of ability to control fentanyl flowing into the U.S. Watch.
finally have a president who is standing up to both Canada and Mexico, and most importantly to China as well. The president added an additional 10% tariff on China because this deadly poison is being produced in that country. It's being distributed through our neighbors, and there needs to be consequences for that, period.
And there you see the press secretary defending President Trump's tariffs, not only on Canada, but also on China, especially over its role in producing those elements to make fentanyl, which ultimately go into the U.S. Also today, President Trump announced on Truth Social that he held a call with the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, telling him that President Trump is not satisfied with the current progress that Canada is making in preventing fentanyl from going into the U.S. And President Trump further told him that he thinks Trudeau's border policies are actually to blame for the fentanyl deaths happening still inside the U.S. And also the press secretary today doubled down on President Trump's approach to China, saying that Trump has been very tough to China, both when it comes to tariffs and countering China's unfair trade practices. He also touted a latest win for the U.S. in which BlackRock, an American company, really helped secure U.S. control of the Panama Canal, which President Trump has long said that has fallen into the control of the Chinese Communist Party. Here's the press secretary today talking about that much.
That's a win for the United States of America, and the president will continue to ensure that the Chinese government, the CCP, cannot be infiltrated in the Western Hemisphere, and certainly not in the Panama Canal, which is a very important place for our country.
And meanwhile, on Ukraine, last night, President Trump read to the public a letter from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky saying that Ukraine is now ready for starting peace talks and to sign that minerals deal with the U.S. And while the White House today did not say when exactly the U.S. will respond to that, the press secretary did tell us that Mike Waltz, President Trump's national security advisor, is in talks with his counterparts, and negotiations and talks are happening as we speak. Back to you.
Iris Howe, great update as always. Looks rainy there. Get inside. Stay dry. Thanks. Republican members of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee say that sanctuary city policies impede federal immigration enforcement. That's as those cities were taking in busloads of illegal immigrants caught at the southern border. The mayors say that they are not violating any federal laws. Here's what they had to say.
We cannot let pro-criminal alien policies in obstructionist sanctuary cities continue to endanger American communities and the safety of federal immigration enforcement officers.
The state and local laws that Republicans have issue with today are in full compliance with federal law. They do not obstruct ICE from carrying out its duties.
As a result, New York City was hit with the largest humanitarian crisis in our city's history over the last 3 years. Federal law did not allow me to stop buses from entering New York City. State law required me to provide all in our city with housing and meals and to educate children. City law makes it unlawful to collaborate with ICE for civil enforcement.
Americans expect us to do more than point fingers. They expect us to solve problems. So if Denver can find a way to put aside our ideological differences long enough to manage a crisis we didn't choose or create, it seems only fair to ask that the body that is actually charged with solving this national problem, this Congress, can finally commit to do the same.
When there is trust between cities' residents and the police, undocumented immigrants come forward to report crimes to local law enforcement and provide information that helps the police solve those crimes.
So to every one of my neighbors back in Boston, know this: you belong here. This is your home.
Republican members of Congress highlighted the increasing reports of crimes committed by illegal border crossers and say sanctuary laws protect criminals. Some of the mayors say collaborating with ICE means illegal immigrants who are victims of crimes won't come forward, creating a safe haven for their aggressors. The contentious hearing comes as the DOJ is suing the state of New York, Illinois, and the city of Chicago, alleging they're impeding federal immigration efforts. And the Trump administration says more funding is needed to support its crackdown on illegal immigration. Border Czar Tom Homan said yesterday that additional resources, including more detention beds, enforcement tools, and deportation flights, are essential. Homan acknowledged the cost is significant, but called it a one-time expense. He contrasted the costs with ongoing taxpayer-funded services like education and health care for illegal immigrants. The number of encounters with illegal immigrants at the U.S.-Mexico border has dropped sharply since Trump entered the Oval Office. And Vice President J.D. Vance is highlighting the Trump administration's immigration enforcement efforts on the southern border. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard will join him today in Eagle Pass, Texas. Vance is expected to tour the border and hold a roundtable with local, state, and federal officials. State authorities and local activists say Vance's itinerary also likely includes a visit to Shelby Park. Texas Governor Greg Abbott began using this municipal space along the Rio Grande last year during a feud with the Biden administration. Abbott has often accused Trump's predecessor of not doing enough to curb illegal crossings. The White House says the Border Patrol has made dramatically fewer arrests since President Trump began his second term. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced a visa restriction policy today. The policy will target immigration, customs, airport, and port authority officials and others who, quote, knowingly facilitate the transit of aliens intending to illegally immigrate into the United States via the U.S. southwest border. That's what Rubio had to say in a statement on the issue. The Trump administration wants to drop a lawsuit from the Biden administration that would have made it legal for Idaho healthcare practitioners to perform abortions requested as emergency care. Idaho's Defense of Life Act forbids abortions except when necessary to prevent the death of the pregnant woman or during the first trimester when the pregnancy was caused by rape or incest. Performing an abortion otherwise can lead to 5 years in prison and result in the revocation of a medical doctor's license. The Biden administration argued that Idaho's law violates federal law, which requires hospitals accepting Medicare to provide stabilizing care in emergency rooms. It argued stabilizing care includes abortion if requested. Idaho says its state law allows for abortions in life-threatening situations, but argues the Biden administration was trying to improperly expand its exceptions. A federal judge has blocked President Trump from firing the Democratic chair of a U.S. agency. That agency handles appeals from fired or disciplined federal employees. U.S. District Judge Rudolph Contreras ruled that Trump cannot remove Kathy Harris from the Merit Systems Protection Board without cause before her term expires in 3 years. He said the agency's mission requires independence. The three-member board plays a key role in reviewing federal job disputes, a position that could become critical as Trump moves to shrink the federal workforce. The administration argued that firing restrictions encroach on the president's authority, but the judge cited a 90-year-old Supreme Court ruling limiting a president's power to remove certain agency heads. The Trump administration is appealing that decision. And a court will also be hearing an oral argument today in a New York City case against the Trump administration. That case centers on FEMA money used to house illegal immigrants being taken back. And moving on, the Trump administration has released a list of hundreds of federal buildings that it intends to either sell or close. That list was published yesterday, and it originally included some pretty big names, such as the FBI headquarters and the main Justice Department building. The old post office building where President Trump once ran a hotel and the American Red Cross headquarters were also included. Hours later, the General Services Administration published a revised list with none of the Washington, D.C. buildings on it. The final list includes buildings in Indiana, Atlanta, and San Francisco, as well as the U.S. mission to the United Nations in New York. That list has 320 buildings in total. The Trump administration has deemed these buildings not core to government operations. The General Services Administration did not respond to questions about why properties had been removed from the original list. And some breaking news, the Justice Department earlier today unsealed indictments charging 12 Chinese nationals, accusing them of participating in Beijing-backed espionage activities. They include Chinese hackers and Chinese intelligence officials. This is a joint effort by the Justice Department, State Department, FBI, Treasury, and Naval Criminal Investigative Service. The State Department announced a reward of up to $2 million for information leading to the arrest or conviction of 2 of the Chinese nationals. The Treasury sanctioned one of the Chinese data brokers and his Shanghai-based company. The government has taken control of all of his U.S. properties and interests. According to the DOJ press release, victims of these Chinese hacking operations include a New York-based newspaper that publishes critics of the Chinese Communist Party, a religious group based in the U.S., and several U.S. governmental agencies such as the Intelligence Agency under the Pentagon and the Commerce Department. Several Asian countries' foreign ministries are among the targets. We'll be keeping you posted as this case develops. An avalanche has trapped multiple people heli-skiing in the Alaskan backcountry. Alaska state troopers said the avalanche occurred yesterday afternoon near the skiing community of Girdwood. The town is located about 40 miles south of Anchorage. The condition of the skiers was not immediately clear. Now, according to the National Avalanche Center, 25 to 30 people die in avalanches each winter in the U.S. On February 8th, a well-known outdoor guide was killed in an avalanche in Utah. 3 people died in avalanches 10 days later. 1 person near Lake Tahoe and 2 backcountry skiers in Oregon's Cascade Mountains. On February 20th, a Crested Butte snowboarder was killed in a slide west of Silverton. Another person was killed in an avalanche in central Colorado on February 22nd. Coming up, Denmark's foreign minister reacts to President Trump's comments on Greenland during last night's address to Congress. Greenlanders will head to the polls next week for parliamentary elections. That story and more when we come back.
Looking for a healthy and smooth-tasting brew? Drop by Days Coffee Roasters today and explore our wide selection of specialty-grade, small-batch roasted coffee. Home to North America's first enzyme-fermented coffee, we source a wide selection of specialty-grade coffee beans from around the world, and our baristas are ready to craft your customized brew. Visit Days Coffee at 28 North Street, Middletown, New York. Come experience a brew like no other.
Divinely inspired traditional oil painting inspires compassion. Artwork created in truth and beauty illuminates a path to goodness. Rediscover traditional art, revive classical culture. We warmly invite oil painters from around the world to participate in the 7th NTD International Figure Painting Competition, a celebration of classical realism. Please visit oilpainting.ntdtv.com.
There's a whirlwind of emotion and activity going on in this painting. And there's chaos all around and threat from below. The wolves surrounding her, and they're anything but unmoved. They're moving all the time, and we sense that. But this little girl remains unmoved.
She's in quite a perilous situation, but she's completely strong and serene, and she's actually meditating. It was very, very well liked because no matter what culture or what sort of walk of life you're from, I think people, they see it and they immediately understand what that energy, what that message is, and they're drawn to it because everybody kind of needs a little bit of that in their own life, of, you know, the steadfast calmness and something to hold on to. It's definitely an inner peace in the midst of something very chaotic, and for a lot of people right now, the whole world is very, very chaotic. So I guess that's another reason why so many people are very drawn to this.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Welcome back to Newsroom. Denmark's foreign minister was a positive today about President Trump's comments on Greenland during his address to Congress. Nevertheless, the Danish government has said the Arctic island is not for sale.
First of all, I would like to draw the attention to the fact that he said we respect the Greenlandics' right to self-determination, and that, I think, was the most important part of that speech. And I am very optimistic about what will be a Greenlandic decision about this.
Trump made a direct appeal to Greenlanders in his speech to Congress yesterday. As Trump put it, he said, quote, "We will keep you safe, we will make you rich, and together we will take Greenland to heights like you have never thought possible before. Now, the island's prime minister declared today that Greenland cannot be taken or purchased. Greenlanders head to the polls for parliamentary elections next week. The United States has paused intelligence sharing with Ukraine, a move that will limit Ukraine's ability to target Russian forces. It follows Monday's pause on military aid. Russia, meanwhile, said future talks with the U.S. would include discussions on Iran's nuclear program. NTD's international correspondent Malcolm Hudson has the story.
CIA Director John Ratcliffe on Wednesday said the U.S. has halted intelligence sharing with Ukraine. The move could seriously hamper the Ukrainian military's ability to target Russian forces. U.S. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz told reporters Wednesday morning,
"We have taken a step back and are pausing and reviewing all aspects of this relationship."
Since the start of the war in 2022, the U.S. has provided Ukraine with significant intelligence, including critical information its military needs for targeting purposes. Waltz also said the U.S. was actively engaged in talks with Ukraine on a minerals deal and a potential peace deal with Russia.
I think we're going to see movement in very short order.
Waltz, in an interview with Fox and Friends, said President Trump will consider restoring military aid to Ukraine if peace talks are arranged and confidence-building measures are taken. Trump halted the aid on Monday. On Tuesday night, Trump said he had received a letter from Ukrainian President Zelensky that expressed willingness to come to the negotiating table. Waltz said officials were in discussions over a date, location, and negotiating team that would lead to an end to the war, and are already talking about confidence-building measures to then take to the Russians. The Kremlin on Wednesday said that future talks between Russia and the United States would include discussion on Iran's nuclear program, a subject spokesman Dmitry Peskov said had been touched upon in an initial round of US-Russia talks last month.
Russia's position is that the issue of Iran's nuclear dossier needs to be solved only through political and diplomatic means. In our view, there is potential for it.
Trump last month restored his maximum pressure campaign on Iran, which includes efforts to drive its oil exports down to zero in order to stop Tehran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. Iran denies any such intention. Russia has deepened its ties with the Islamic Republic since the start of the Ukraine war and signed a strategic cooperation treaty with Iran in January. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News.
President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump invited numerous guests to last night's joint address to Congress. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on who the president welcomed.
Last night, President Trump turned to relatives of Laken Riley. The nursing student was murdered last year in Georgia while on a run.
Laken was stolen from us by a savage illegal alien gang member. With us this evening are Laken's beloved mother, Allison, and her sister, Lauren.
Trump also signed an executive order renaming a national wildlife refuge in Galveston in memory of a 12-year-old allegedly killed by 2 illegal immigrants. The girl's mother, Alexis, was in the gallery.
Moments ago, I formally renamed that refuge in loving memory of your beautiful daughter, Jocelyn. So, Mr. Vice President, if you would, may I have the order?
Another notable guest included DJ Daniel. The president had a surprise for the 13-year-old who is battling brain cancer.
I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service.
And we're going to stay on the topic of President Trump's address last night, specifically his comments on transgenderism. We're joined now by Catalina Stube, National Director of Hispanic Outreach for Moms for Liberty. Catalina, thank you for joining us. I think a moment that really stood out to many of your fellow Moms for Liberty moms and really just child advocates in general last night was when the president spoke directly to America's children and said, "You're perfect the way God made you." And this was in relation, of course, to that topic of transgenderism. And it seems that this line really seems to have struck a chord. Tell me why you think that is.
This is basic on biology. This is basic on science. Actually, sexuality is defining in the chromosomes, in the DNA. You cannot change that. So for us, to stand by the truth and to have a president who is using common sense. It's fantastic. The moment when he actually recognized a great warrior, which is January Littlejohn, it was amazing. She is one of our own. She is a Moms for Liberty. She is actually a great warrior who stands for truth, who stands against this machine who is trying to steal our children, the soul of our children, who they are trying to abuse our children. They are trying to confuse our children. So that was a real moment for us, a great representation from January.
Now, speaking of January, she famously sued her daughter's Florida school district for allowing her to socially transition to a different gender without January's knowledge or any sort of parental consent. So what do you think the significance of inviting her to the address last night was? What are the mothers in your circle saying about it?
The recognition that President Trump for all of the moms represented by January is amazing. We have been in this battle for so many years, and finally is a politician who stand by the truth, who stand by common sense, and is representing also the all the moms that are stand defending parental rights, defending to actually the basic common sense. It's to stand by our children and please do not mess with their innocence or the integrity of their bodies. So we are just simply asking pure common sense things. Is respect our children, allow our children to be children, and respect the sports of our children, of our girls. And that's it. And President Trump is respecting that. President Trump actually it's passing the executive orders to restore common sense, to actually allow us to simply thrive as a motherhood, as a moms with our children, and they offering them an education based in academics.
Catalina, what do you think it meant for American children to hear from the president's own mouth that they're perfect the way God made them?
This is beautiful, one of the most beautiful moments, and it's truth. Nobody should ever tell our children that they are born in a grown body. Actually, this is pure abuse, and is repeatedly said and promoted by the radical left. This is something that it's taking apart children from the parents, and some doctors, without any ethic, they are saying to our children or our moms, manipulating them, that if you prefer a dead son or a changing son and in sex. So this is one of the most horrible lies that you can say to a parent. But they are born in the perfect body, and they are beautiful the way they are, and the way that God made them is perfect. So do not allow anyone to tell you different than that. If no, it's a complete abuser.
Catalina, the Trump administration is also trying to protect children from that online AI-generated pornographic content that we're seeing at an alarming increase, really. First Lady Melania Trump, we saw she held her first press conference on her own this week, expressing support for a bipartisan bill that aims to protect children and women from these types of images. So Catalina, how big of an issue is this for parents right now?
This is amazing that now we have a first lady who is taking her role to be more active and using his personal influence to actually taking action in favor of the most vulnerable people. In that case, is the children who are victim of the bullying in internet, where they are using their pictures and creating pornographic image without their consent. And she is solving the problem. Actually, she is trying to unify the parties because she's trying to pass a bipartisan law and unify this country in benefit of our children. She is focusing more in politics with a more defined to protect the children, and he became more active, probably changing the role of a first lady who before it was only a presence in the political commitments, and now it became a force in the political spectrum.
So what other bipartisan measures are you hoping to see in the coming months that really prioritize children's well-being?
Well, Democrats didn't understand that what we're trying to do, Republicans or even the moms or some people like First Lady Melania Trump, is to protect the integrity of our children, and they are not willing to work with common sense. They are just simply passing an agenda, and that agenda is rejecting every single thing that President Trump is proposing, even if it's protecting children, even if it's protecting something like pure common sense. So hopefully one day they're going to recognize that this war is not really smart to go against the common sense, to go against the will of the parents. And they join force with the Republicans to pass all the bipartisan laws that is protecting and respecting the Constitution of the United States, and is protecting life, is protecting freedom of speech, is protecting our security, our finances, and our economy. So this is only beneficial for every single citizen of the United States.
Well, Catalina Stuve, National Director of Hispanic Outreach for Moms for Liberty, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Moving on now, the Chinese Communist Party says that it would increase defense spending by more than 7% this year. The rate is the same as last year, but far below the double-digit percentage increase of the years prior, a sign that China's reeling economy has not kept up with the regime's ambitions. China's military spending remains the second largest in the world, right behind the U.S. Now, though China has already the world's largest navy, that is. The Chinese regime has been upping its aggression in recent years. In the South China Sea, Beijing's Coast Guard ships have rammed into Filipino boats. To the east, the Chinese Navy has been staging drills near Taiwan, sending ships into waters near Japan. And in the Pacific, Chinese and Russian bombers were in a joint patrol in the airspace near Alaska in 2024. When we come back, polls find a majority of viewers approved of Trump's address to Congress last night. We'll speak to a political analyst about his take on Trump's speech. Stay with us.
Hi friends, Richard Karn here. Now I'm known as the guy who can fix just about anything, but the technology in most appliances requires very special training to fix. My point is, even I know when I've met my match, and that's why my family has Choice Home Warranty. So we won't get stuck with high-priced repairs.
Choice Home Warranty covers over 25 major home systems and appliances. That's your AC, heating, plumbing, kitchen and laundry appliances, and so much more.
Imagine for less than a cup of coffee a day, Choice Home Warranty can help protect you from expensive major system and appliance breakdowns that your homeowner's insurance doesn't cover. But you have to call now before it's too late.
Every homeowner should have Choice Home Warranty. Your homeowner's insurance is not going to cover your appliances.
Washing machine, dryer, refrigerator, air condition. If I had any issues arise, they were able to take care of it immediately.
Now, homeowner's insurance won't protect you when your home's major systems and appliances break down due to normal wear and tear. But Choice Home Warranty will. They can help cover repairs and replacements.
Choice Home Warranty is the best warranty we've ever used. It would save you so much money in the long run.
Hey, I'm not the only one raving about Choice Home Warranty. They were named a Best Home Warranty Company and Best Claim Service by U.S. News 360 Reviews.
Call Choice Home Warranty now and get access to a nationwide network of over 15,000 technicians and the latest appointment setting technology so you'll know when they're on their way.
If I have an issue with an appliance or something around the house, I just call up Choice Home Warranty and I don't have to worry about that.
So, do what this old DIYer did and call Choice Home Warranty now before something breaks down. Tell them I sent you and get your first month free.
Call Choice Home Warranty before it's too late and get protection for your heating, AC, plumbing, kitchen and laundry appliances, and more. Call for your free quote today. Call in the next 5 minutes and get your first month free. 800-360-6782. 800-360-6782.
Looking to refresh the style in your home? Here at Mathis Home, we can help you find exactly what you need during our spring style event. Whether you're looking for rustic farmhouse, classic, or modern and eclectic, we have all the latest looks that will leave your home feeling brand new. Whatever your style, we know that we can help you find it at the lowest price. Because not only do we want you to feel good in your home, we know that to earn your business, our prices have to be the best. So come to the spring style event at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
Discover the ancient secret to vitality and longevity with Puretang Black Ginseng. Crafted from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng, each root is carefully nurtured for over 2,260 days, undergoing a traditional 9-round handcrafted process of steaming and drying to unlock full potency and absorption. Experience pure, natural energy with Puretang Black Ginseng. Order now at puretang.com.
Thanks for staying with us. We're going to stay on the topic of President Trump's address to Congress last night. Joining us now for reactions and analysis is Jeff Crouere, political analyst and host of the radio and TV show Ringside Politics. Jeff, always great to see you. I mean, it was quite a night last night. Longest speech to a joint session of Congress in U.S. history, I believe. What stood out to you?
Yeah, it was. It was quite a speech. And, well, one of the reasons why it did go on as long as it did is because there was a lot of applause lines, and the Republicans were jumping to their feet for a lot of what the president had to say. And then, of course, what really struck me is that Democrats really sat on their hands the whole night. I mean, there wasn't anything really the Democrats applauded. Even the guests that were there, the great human interest stories, they didn't seem to support any of that. So I found that to be sort of unusual, because normally you at least have some issues that bring people together. But I think the Democrats were definitely determined to be obstinate the whole night.
And speaking of that, Democrats did face criticism for some of their reactions last night, especially when most remained seated and didn't clap for that 13-year-old brain cancer survivor, DJ Daniel. Do you think this type of reaction hurts the Democrats more than advancing their message?
I really do. I really do. Well, it started with the congressman getting thrown out. Congressman Green disrupting the speech. And then from there, you had others leave. And then they had their little signs, which I thought were not effective and really not joining in to celebrate these great human interest stories, these courageous people that were there. I think was a poor move on behalf of the Democrats. I think they really are just so opposed to President Trump. They don't want to find anything really to find common ground with him on. So, as he said last night, this has really been the reaction he's had from the Democrats in every one of his addresses to Congress. This is his fifth major, either a first-year address, which isn't called a State of the Union, or the other ones, which were State of the Union addresses. So it'll be interesting to see if things change, but I doubt it.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the support we did see for the president. We saw that CBS poll come out with that number. 76% of viewers approved of Trump's speech, only 23% disapproved. My question here is, of course, the majority Republican viewership, of course, will support President Trump, but did he win any new support last night?
I think he did, among those maybe that are independent, moderate, the famous swing voters. I don't think he won over any hardcore Democrats. And you're right, those that watch a Democrat State of the Union address are mostly Democrats. Those who watch a Republican State of the Union or joint address to Congress are mostly Republicans. So a lot of the Democrats weren't even watching. But I've never seen President Trump get those kind of numbers. 76% approval. I mean, those are sky-high numbers for President Trump. And I think it was a well-crafted speech. He talked about his accomplishments, talked about issues which should be able to unify Americans, like the human interest stories, talked about mostly domestic and mostly border issues, not as much about foreign policy. And I think that's good, because that's really what the American people are interested in. He was elected because of his border policies and his economic policies. And that's what he focused on in the speech.
Now, building off of that, Jeff, a CNN poll found that 76% approved of Trump's immigration-related remarks last night. And we also saw in a breakdown that, as you say, a large majority of his time was spent talking about that. What kind of an impression did he leave there with viewers?
Well, I think the impression was this is a president fully in command. Notice how he brought up Biden a lot, talked about Joe Biden as being the worst president, said that people were saying that they needed legislation to fix the border, but what they really needed was just a new president. So he talked about his leadership being important in getting the border issue taken care of and moving forward on the economy. So I think people came away from that speech thinking, wow, this is a president that's done a lot in his first 6 weeks, has a big agenda, and is committed to turning the country around. And he's pointing to a lot of success already, but we know there are a lot of landmines ahead. There's a $36.5 trillion deficit. There's a very evenly split Congress. So the president's got challenges ahead of him for sure.
Jeff, Trump has been facing criticism for not having already lowered prices or inflation as he had promised to do so on the campaign trail. How do you think he handled that topic last night?
Well, I think he blamed Biden, and he pretty much said that, he's working on it. And, he's only been in office for 43, 44 days. So I think he's got a legitimate point saying, hey, give me time to be able to deal with these issues. Biden was there for 4 years. He just got there. Eventually, though, when you come closer to midterms, people are going to be expecting his policies to start working. So if he hasn't turned things around by the midterm elections, then they're really going to be in trouble as far as Republicans maintaining control of Congress. So that's why he wants to get this bill done as soon as possible so it can kick in prior to the midterm election.
Jeff, going back to an earlier point you made about Trump having said that there was really nothing he could possibly ever do to get the Democratic side of the room to stand up for him or applaud for him, I think this highlights a deeper issue here of the polarity of modern day American politics.
No doubt about it. You go back 40 years, Ronald Reagan coming back from a gunshot wound, addressing Congress, everybody cheering. You think back to Bill Clinton when he would make some remarks about the budget or immigration, getting cheers from Republicans. There were some presidents in the past who would, just talk about some people in the gallery or people that were special guests. Everyone would cheer. So, yeah, we've got a really polarized country. We've got a divided country. I think the Democrats, if I could give some advice to them, would be better to try to move to the middle, try to find some common ground with President Trump, try to move away from the far left agenda. I think that would behoove them to make those kind of moves. I think it would be beneficial to their standing. I don't know if they're going to do it, though. I don't see really the push within the Democratic Party to make those kind of moves. There's only 1 or 2 Democrats really in Congress that have even expressed any sort of willingness to work with President Trump, and one of them is John Fetterman, and he just doesn't have a lot of company. So we'll see. It's really a sad state of affairs as far as our political climate in this country, that's for sure.
Now, building off of that really quickly before we go here, Jeff, I want to get your take on the Democratic rebuttal we saw yesterday. I think a key part of that speech was that the rebuttal admitted to a lot of the issues that Americans are facing today and that Trump brings up, but they're against the way Trump is handling them.
Right. You've got to be clear about what the issues are the American people are facing. And really, both parties are going to have to address these economic problems that are, at the top of the list for the American people. And, what the Democrats tried to do is put forward someone who's fresh, someone who is new, someone who hadn't been in the Senate for a long time. I thought it was a good move that they did not put someone like Chuck Schumer in that position, someone who had just been elected. So maybe that is a sign that they understand that they need a new generation of leadership in the Democrat Party, and we'll see. I don't know what is going to be happening as far as their presidential race in 2028, but pretty soon there are going to be some candidates who are going to start thinking about it and start making plans. And I'll be interested if there's going to be any new fresh faces on the Democrat side, but we'll see. It'll be a wide open race on both sides, so it'll be interesting as we start getting closer to that. There'll be a lot of candidates certainly jumping in.
Absolutely. 2024 just passed, and we're already looking ahead to 2028. Jeff Carrere, thanks for joining us.
Right. Thank
you. Make sure to stick around to hear our conversation with a more left-leaning political strategist, Dante Mills, coming up in the next hour. We'll be hearing his thoughts on President Trump's address, whether it was unifying, and what the Democratic Party needs to do differently to reach voters. Stay with us.
I'm Amy Grant, and I want to talk to you from my heart about the heart. I would have been the last person on the list to say this woman has a problem with her heart. So no, there was nothing about my life that said, you have a ticking time bomb in your chest. But I did. I wound up in the office of a cardiologist because I was there with my husband. And at the tail end of that, the cardiologist looked at me and said, I want to see you. No one was more surprised than I was to learn I was living with a rare heart condition. He said, Amy, this condition, you'll be fine, and then catastrophic. A few months later, I had open heart surgery that saved my life. And I owe it to the research and life-saving medical breakthroughs developed by the American Heart Association. That's why I'm asking you to join me and become a monthly donor to the American Heart Association. Please call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough, get the next person trained in CPR, and get the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. If this could happen to me, it could happen to anybody. Heart disease is America's #1 killer, but your support can save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt you can wear to show you're part of a community of monthly donors working to help save more lives like mine. I'm grateful for the American Heart Association. Their research gave me more time to do the things I love with the people I love. So listen to your heart. I'm here today because I did. Please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now to become a monthly donor and help save even more lives. Thank you.
Kids love it. Parents trust it. Obviously. Explore GJW Plus Kids Series and Gone Gion Campus courses led by expert educators. This is spectacular. Children will learn values like respect, responsibility, and knowledge in language, science, and more. Wow. All while having fun. Perfect. Subscribe today at GJW Plus Kids, where learning meets fun.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. So if you want to talk to your kids, you have to get it trending.
No, you're doing it wrong. Let's go.
Can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
Visit talkaboutVaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
There are real consequences to controlled media. And NTD's founders know them firsthand. Our freedom of thought is the price. This is the lesson that guides us in everything we do.
So there's the tear gas there.
We know the value of a free society. And we take seriously the responsibility to preserve it. We are NTD.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Fiona G. The Supreme Court orders the Trump administration to unfreeze $2 billion in foreign aid. We'll be speaking with a constitutional expert about the significance of the Trump administration's latest legal battle. President Donald Trump delivers a speech to a joint session of Congress. It's the first of his second term. What could Democrats learn from it to advance their own policy goals? We speak with a political strategist. The Justice Department charges a slew of Chinese cyber actors and intelligence officials, accusing them of waging espionage attacks against U.S. government agencies, news organizations, and a faith group. We have the details of the case. What kind of threat is the U.S. facing from China in terms of cyber warfare? A bipartisan House committee talks about what needs to be done. Vice President J.D. Vance heads to Eagle Pass, Texas today. He'll be joined by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. Severe storms, tornadoes, and blizzards sweep across the U.S., leaving destruction behind. We'll have the latest on power outages, evacuations, and storm warnings.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
We're starting this hour off with a look at a press conference from the White House earlier today. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt noted how well received President Trump's speech to Congress last night was with the American people. According to a CBS YouGov survey, 76% of those watching approved. Leavitt also gave an update on Mohammed Sharifullah, the man who was confessed to crimes relating to the deadly bombing at Abbey Gate in Afghanistan.
After nearly 4 years, President Trump delivered justice for the families of the 13 American heroes who were killed at Abbey Gate in the Biden-botched Afghanistan withdrawal, which was one of the worst humiliations in the history of our country. President Trump announced that we have detained Mohammed Sharifullah, the monster who was responsible for that horrific attack, and he was delivered to Dulles Airfield earlier this morning.
She said the president focused on everyday Americans during last night's address and that he plans to make America affordable again. Leavitt called the behavior of Democrats during President Trump's speech to Congress as disgraceful and out of touch with the American public, noting that they screamed at the president and some even walked out.
Democrats didn't stand to keep men out of women's sports. They couldn't even clap for a girl who got her head smashed in by a man on a volleyball court. Democrats didn't stand for an innocent and beautiful child who is surviving brain cancer. They opposed eliminating taxes on tips and Social Security. They didn't stand in favor of cutting taxes for hardworking Americans. They couldn't even clap for 2 mothers whose daughters were killed by illegal aliens. One of the only things that could get Democrats off their feet last night was cheering for Ukraine, not for America.
Some breaking news now. The Justice Department earlier today unsealed indictments charging 12 Chinese nationals, accusing them of participating in Beijing-backed espionage activities. They include Chinese hackers and Chinese intelligence officials. This is a joint effort by the Justice Department, State Department, FBI, Treasury, and Naval Criminal Investigative Service. The State Department announced a reward of up to $2 million for information leading to the arrest or to the conviction of 2 of the Chinese nationals. The Treasury sanctioned one of the Chinese data brokers and his Shanghai-based company. The government has also taken control of all of his U.S. properties and interests. According to the DOJ press release, victims of these Chinese hacking operations include a New York-based newspaper that publishes critics of the Chinese Communist Party, a religious group based in the U.S., and several U.S. governmental agencies, such as the Intelligence Agency under the Pentagon and the Commerce Department. Several Asian countries' foreign ministries are among the targets as well. We will keep you posted as the case develops. A House committee analyzes the current and ongoing threats that the Chinese Communist Party poses to American infrastructure through cyber attacks and gaining access to sensitive data. NTD correspondent Jason Blair now joins us from Capitol Hill. Jason, tell us more about the takeaways from the hearing.
Yeah, hey Fiona. So the bipartisan House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party did discuss the cyber warfare threat today on Capitol Hill. One of the things they talked about is also how to defend and deter against it. One message that the committee wanted to get across is that this is just one area of kind of the unrestricted warfare that the CCP has been gauging on the United States. However, it can do a lot of damage. The chair, Rep. Molinar, said that they have hackers have targeted water treatment plants. They have targeted power grids that power houses, and even hospitals they have been targeting for sabotage attacks possibly. So Molinar gave two recent examples of some big attacks from Chinese hackers. One was into telecommunications companies like AT&T and Verizon. Hackers were able to gain access to millions of people's sensitive data on their phone, as well as listening to conversations kind of at will, leading from the everyday person up to even possibly the president and vice president of America. Another cyber attack recently that was big gained access to a lot of critical infrastructure in the United States, and intelligence officials, according to the chair, have said that the CCP plans to kind of activate this access in case there's some kind of conflict between China and the United States, like maybe something to do with Taiwan or anything else. So they kind of plan to hold this over and be able to activate possible sabotage at any moment when they want to. So this is a clip from the chair Molinar's opening statement earlier today. Have a look.
It is clear Xi Jinping's goal is to sabotage our way of life when the time is right for his regime. These cyber operations are part of a broader, coordinated effort by the Chinese Communist Party targeting everything from water utilities in Hawaii to oil pipelines on the West Coast and even the Texas power grid. The party's goal is clear: to undermine the very systems that keep this country running. We must understand that this isn't just a cyber threat. This is part of the CCP's larger strategy to destroy the American way of life. As we've seen with this deliberate flooding of fentanyl into our communities, the CCP will stop at nothing, even if it costs the lives of hundreds of thousands of Americans to advance its goals of global dominance.
So Rep. Molinar also continued saying, quote, the CCP views all forms of warfare, cyber, economic, ideological, and military as different tools to achieve the same goal, global domination through the defeat of its enemies. Back to you.
Well, Jason, what are some of the solutions that they discussed to fight against these attacks?
Yeah, Fiona, so they did definitely talk about that. Ranking member Rep. Krishnamurthy talked about some things that could be done to defend against those recent cyber attacks, to address those vulnerabilities there, as well as increase the cyber talent workforce. The government really needs to take that seriously, he said, and hire the best talent in order to defend against this and really get more proactive against these attacks. And one thing he really wanted to emphasize, too, is that the U.S. really needs to start holding the CCP accountable when these things happen and really make them think twice. Here's what he said earlier today during the hearing.
Some people call this defending forward. It means imposing costs on the CCP each time they attack us. When Xi Jinping decides whether to launch another attack, he needs to ask himself whether the costs are worth the benefits. With the full force of NSA, CISA, and other cyber experts, we need to make China think twice. This is only going to become more important as AI makes cyber attacks more effective and harder to detect.
So Congressman Krishnamurthy, talked about AI, and he's known for getting pretty creative during these hearings sometimes. So he actually to demonstrate this, he created an AI version of himself just to show how far things have come and where they're heading, and how much more serious the U.S. needs to start taking these kind of threats. Here's a clip from that.
Hello, everyone. I'm a deepfake of Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy. I was created using generative AI technology. That's right. I'm not the real Raja. I'm just an AI-generated video. Using AI technology, it will become easier for the CCP to hack us, since they can automate work currently done by thousands of hackers. But even if hacking becomes easier with AI, we can still deter it if we impose serious consequences. Xi Jinping, you may have thought Salt Typhoon was a massive success, but consider yourself warned. We're going to flip the script and make you regret this historic hack. When Congress channels its anger into action and ups our cybersecurity game like never before, you will come to see your intelligence coup as a massive strategic blunder.
So one common message from this hearing, and really from a lot of the committee's hearings that they have been learning during their research and over the years that their committee has been around, is that the CCP is really, nothing is going to stop them from trying to become number one in the world. Nothing is off limits, as they have been finding. They're going through all different kinds of avenues, unrestricted warfare, to accomplish that goal. And really, they say that they haven't found any indication that the CCP wants to really peacefully coexist. They pretty much just want to become number one. Back to you.
Very, very important discussion to have. Jason Blair, thanks for the report. The Supreme Court ruled today that the Trump administration must resume payments to foreign aid organizations for work that they've already done. The High Court's 5-4 decision upholds an order to release funding for contractors at the U.S. Agency for International Development and at the State Department. Aid organizations said in a Supreme Court filing they, quote, would face extraordinary and irreversible harm if the funding freeze continues. President Trump is pursuing what he calls an America First agenda, ordering a 90-day pause on all foreign aid on his first day back in office. Trump and Department of Government Efficiency head Elon Musk continue to search for and cut what they say is waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government. And joining us now to break this down is John Malcolm, Vice President of the Heritage Foundation's Institute for Constitutional Government and Director of the Meese Center for Legal and Judicial Studies. Thanks for joining us today. Great to have you on. What was the court's reasoning here for not siding with the Trump administration?
Well, all the court did was it allowed a temporary restraining order by the district court to go into effect. It was a very unusual temporary restraining order that ordered essentially the federal government via the U.S. Agency for International Development to distribute $2 billion to organizations that claim that they've already done the work that they had contracted to do. The government has raised several legal arguments against making those payments, including sovereign immunity, and the court didn't rule on the merits of any of those claims. They just refused to stay the temporary restraining order that the judge had put into place. There was a vigorous dissent by Justice Samuel Alito that was joined by Justices Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, and Brett Kavanaugh, saying that what the district court judge was outrageous, that the government has some strong legal arguments to present, and that the judge was essentially ordering the government to disperse $2 billion that it will never be able to get back if it ultimately wins on the merits of the case. They even went further and said, look, the respondents in this case only claimed that they owed $250 million, not $2 billion. But there are other groups out there that have similar claims, and this judge ordered the government to give relief to all of those organizations too. So the underlying legal question about ongoing obligations to make these payments and whether or not the government has sovereign immunity, those issues are still to be litigated. But in the meantime, it looks as if $2 billion of taxpayer dollars are going to be going out the door.
You really answered two of my following questions there. But I guess one of my other questions here is, I mean, this was a very split decision, 5-4. What does that tell you?
Well, again, it's not a decision on the merits. It's a decision on the propriety of the temporary restraining order that the judge entered and whether he had the jurisdiction to actually do this. The dissent said, look, you have judges, lower court judges, that are abusing the temporary restraining order process. Normally, temporary restraining orders are not appealable, so they're entering temporary restraining orders. They're doing it on a nationwide basis, and then they are delaying having hearings before they can enter into preliminary or permanent injunctions, which are appealable. And they also said these were serious arguments that the government is raising, that once these $2 billion has been spent, it's going to be very, very difficult to claw back. And if these groups really had a legitimate claim for money owed, they have another court that they can go to, the Court of Federal Claims, which adjudicates these cases. So it shows that the justices are certainly very split on the propriety of district court judges giving extraordinary remedies and only entering temporary restraining orders. We will see whether the justices remain split when the merits of these arguments, the merits of the government's sovereign immunity argument, actually reach the high court. But these issues are bubbling up to the Supreme Court very, very quickly. So this was definitely a big loss for the Trump administration, that $2 billion is going to go out the door, but they can still make the argument that future payments should be suspended because the government has sovereign immunity, which it has not waived.
John, throughout this whole debate, a key point that we saw the Trump administration cite was the difficulty of actually meeting the court's order to pay out all those funds within such a short time frame. I mean, from a legal perspective, how common is it for courts to issue such an urgent order? And how do you agencies usually respond?
Well, temporary restraining orders are designed when somebody is going to suffer a harm that could not possibly be remedied by waiting for a ruling on the merits. This was a rather extraordinary order in that it was a very large sum of money that was ordered to be paid very, very quickly. And what the Supreme Court did, or the majority in its very, very short order, said, look, we're going to send this back to the lower court for the lower court to determine exactly how much money should be paid out and to whom, and to take into consideration the time that it will take to raise those funds and disperse those funds. So now we'll see what the district court judge does when these cases go back. But in the meantime, you have a lot of district court judges that are ordering taxpayer dollars to be spent that may be wasteful or potentially harm national security. And you're also ordering the president to keep executive branch officials in place whom he wants to replace because he doesn't think that they are going to exercise power in a way that is consonant with his policy objectives. These are rather remarkable orders that these district court judges are entering, and these legal issues are going to make their way to the Supreme Court very quickly, as they should.
And absolutely, as you say, a lot is still needing to be discussed here, but based on what we're seeing so far, do you see this ruling as a check on executive overreach, or do you see it more as raising concerns about judicial overreach into the executive branch's authority?
Well, the critics of the Trump administration will certainly say that this is executive overreaching. In some cases, I suppose it's possible that it is, but certainly having district court judges ordering the president to keep in place key executive branch officials whom he wants to fire, or ordering the federal government to spend billions and billions of dollars that it wants to pause while it studies the merits of these claims, those are rather extraordinary remedies, unlike any that I've seen in quite some time.
Well, what exactly is the long-term impact here if we see foreign assistance programs having this precedent that they're seeing where courts can force the executive branch to release funds in situations like this? What kind of a precedent does this set?
Well, it certainly sets a precedent at the district court level, but these cases, again, are going to make their way up to the Supreme Court. The sovereign immunity argument is a very important argument, and the Supreme Court is going to have to ultimately rule on that. In addition to that, as you saw last night from the speech, the president is engaging in an ongoing dialogue with Congress. Congress appropriates money, but Congress can also claw back money and decide that the president's objectives are ones that Congress wants to fund or defund. So there's a dialogue going on at the moment between the president and the courts that will make their way to the Supreme Court. And there is also a dialogue going on between the president and Congress as to how much money Congress should appropriate and how those funds ought to be spent.
And building off of everything you just said here, John, Justice Alito also did write, a federal court has many tools to address a party's supposed nonfeasance. Self-aggrandizement of its jurisdiction is not one of them. What exactly does that mean? I mean, what's next for the Trump administration?
Well, they're going to appeal this. Now, it's back to the district court. The judge will enter into probably a preliminary or permanent injunction, and that will be appealed. But what Justice Alito meant by that is that, injunctions are supposed to deal with equitable remedies, to enjoin somebody from doing something. But forcing the government to pay $2 billion that a claimant thinks is owed to him is not an equitable remedy. That's a damages remedy. And he also was sitting there and saying, look, if they have a claim for damages, they need to go to the Court of Federal Claims, not the U.S. District Court. So I suppose Justice Alito was talking about this district court judge wrongfully expanding his jurisdiction in a couple of ways. One, by hearing the case in the first place, and two, by ordering a remedy that he should not have been permitted to issue.
Certainly is a very interesting case that they've got going on there. John Malcolm, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being with you.
Coming up, a New York federal judge today denies the city of New York's request to order the Trump administration to return FEMA funds. And Vice President Vance heads to Eagle Pass, Texas today. He'll be joined by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. That story and more after this short break.
I saw war, bombing, shooting. I'm worried for my future.
كتير رعب وطبعا هلا يعني أنا بحس بالرعب الكبير بدنا بس نعيش بأمان.
Conflict is raging across the world, and millions of children's lives are being devastated by war, hunger, disease, and poverty. We urgently need your help to reach children in crisis. Please call or go online to give just $10 a month, only 33 cents a day. We need 1,000 new monthly donors this month to help children in crisis around the world and right here at home. You can help us provide food, essentials, and life-saving medical care to children in the most need.
من حريتنا يعني بدنا نعيش زي كل الأطفال بدنا نعيش بحرية وأمان.
In the darkest times, children suffer the most. You can help by calling right now and giving just $10 a month. All we need are 1,000 monthly donors. Please call or go online now. Your donation today can help secure additional grants, which can multiply the impact of your support up to 10 times. And when you call with your credit card, we will send you the Save the Children tote bag as a thank you for your support.
وعيت عن هاي الدنيا القصف والنزوح والخيمة. أتمنى نعاود على بلادنا شايفين لك إنه هذا مستحيل.
Your small monthly donation of just $10 could be the reason a child in crisis survives. Show them they're not alone. Please call or go online to givetosave.org to help save lives.
Just like all of you, I had problems sleeping. I had tried every pillow out there and nothing worked. I'd flip-flop all night, use my arm for support, and fall asleep, or I'd wake up with a sore neck or maybe a headache. Well, quality sleep comes from keeping your neck straight at night. You have to fill in that space between your head and your bed. That's why I invented My Pillow. My Pillow's patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs, and it doesn't matter if you sleep on your back, stomach, side, or any combination of all three.
When I got My Pillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night, and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get Classic King My Pillows for only $19.98. Queen size just $18.98. Standard Classic My Pillows only $14.98. That's right, only $14.98. Plus all orders $75 or more ship absolutely free.
Thanks for staying with us. A New York federal judge today denied the city of New York's request to order the Trump administration to return FEMA funds. Now, the judge said the city failed to show that it would suffer irreparable harm. And NTD's legal correspondent Arlene Richards just came back from the court. She's with us in studio now. Now, Arlene, you attended that hearing today. Were you surprised by how quickly the judge made her decision there?
I actually was, because going into this, I assumed that she would wait and give us a ruling later on, because that's typically how these hearings have been going on all of these cases against the Trump administration. You know, you hear the oral arguments and then they come back a day or two later with their ruling, written out where you could read it. But she went off the bench for about a half an hour. And she said while she was in the courtroom that I'm going to leave for a little bit, and when I come back, I'm probably going to make my ruling. Now, the difference I saw in this hearing versus other hearings was that she limited them each to a half an hour, and she had very specific questions. And once those questions were answered, she really didn't want to hear much else. I mean, she did let the city argue its motion and make their points, but after she asked her specific questions and then she turned to the Department of Justice, asked them specific questions, she pretty much had heard all she wanted to hear, and then she was ready to go back and rule on it. So I think she probably had a pretty good idea before she came on the bench which way she was leaning.
Well, Arlene, break it down here. What exactly was the city asking for here?
So the city, let's backtrack a little bit more. There was this over $80 million that FEMA had given to the city, which was supposed to be used for specific things that Congress allows them to use it for. They call it appropriations from Congress. And I don't know if you recall, but Elon Musk and also President Trump were talking about $50 million was being used to house illegal immigrants in luxury hotels. And they said, this is how your tax dollars are being spent. And not long after that, this $80+ million was removed from their account, from the city's account. And so they filed this motion to get the money back. Basically, one thing they said they wanted the money back, and they also wanted to make sure that the Trump administration was restrained from ever taking any other monies out from their other accounts that they might have gotten grants from FEMA. So this is what they were there for. They wanted the judge to order the Trump administration to give that money back.
So why exactly did the judge end up ruling the way she did?
Well, she basically said that, she can't order Congress, to return money that they've taken back simply because they've taken it back and the city says, this is going to harm us significantly. She said, I recognize that you may be harmed by this, but, Congress makes that decision and she can't, reverse it. Now, she did tell them they had other avenues they could go through to try and recoup the funds. But for now, she said there's really no irreparable harm that she could see happening to them, although there may be some harm. And there was a back and forth about, why they thought they should keep the money in the first place, because they said FEMA had already reviewed the reasons why they wanted the money and approved it. So they felt like, since it was already approved, there was no reason to take it back. And they said the only reason why the Trump administration is taking it back is because they've changed their position about the program and they no longer want the money used for that. And the judge basically said, well, they can change their mind. The administration can change their mind.
Well, then from here, what happens next?
Well, now she wants them to submit documentation telling her what's next. Do they want to continue on with a lawsuit and see if the city can somehow win a lawsuit over the next course of a couple of years, or do they want to just forget about it and not have a case at all? So they have until March 10th to let the judge know what they want to do next.
And I'm going to say something I feel like I've been saying a lot. We're going to have to wait and see, aren't we, Arlene?
We're going to have to wait and see.
We're going to have to wait and see. Arlene, thank you for joining us.
All right, thank you.
And moving on now, Republican members of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee say that sanctuary city policies impede federal immigration enforcement. That's as those cities were taking in busloads of illegal immigrants caught at the southern border. The mayors say they're not violating any federal laws. Take a look.
We cannot let pro-criminal, alien policies in obstructionist sanctuary cities continue to endanger American communities and the safety of federal immigration enforcement officers.
The state and local laws that Republicans have issue with today are in full compliance with federal law. They do not obstruct ICE from carrying out its duties.
As a result, New York City was hit with the largest humanitarian crisis in our city's history over the last 3 years. Federal law did not allow me to stop buses from entering New York City. State law required me to provide all in our city with housing and meals and to educate children. City law makes it unlawful to collaborate with ICE for civil enforcement.
Americans expect us to do more than point fingers. They expect us to solve problems. So if Denver can find a way to put aside our ideological differences long enough to manage a crisis we didn't choose or create, it seems only fair to ask that the body that is actually charged with solving this national problem, this Congress, can finally commit to do the same.
When there is trust between cities' residents and the police, undocumented immigrants come forward to report crimes to local law enforcement and provide information that helps the police solve those crimes.
So to every one of my neighbors back in Boston, know this: you belong here. This is your home.
Republican members of Congress highlighted the increasing reports of crimes committed by illegal border crossers and say sanctuary laws protect criminals. Some of the mayors say collaborating with ICE means illegal immigrants who are victims of crimes won't come forward, creating a safe haven for their aggressors. The contentious hearing comes as the DOJ is suing the state of New York, Illinois, and the city of Chicago, alleging that they're impeding federal immigration efforts. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced a visa restriction policy today. This policy will target immigration, customs, airport, and port authority officials and others who, quote, knowingly facilitate the transit of aliens intending to illegally immigrate into the United States via the U.S. southwest border. That's according to a statement from Rubio. Moving on now, severe weather is impacting millions across the country, bringing deadly storms, tornadoes, and blizzard conditions. At least 3 lives have been lost so far. NTD's Christina Corona reports.
Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves confirmed a 3rd storm-related death Wednesday, asking for prayers for the victim's family, stating, "Tragically, a 3rd fatality has been reported. Please pray for their family during this difficult time." 2 injuries were reported in Madison County and 4 were reported in Wayne County. 2 people died in Madison County, one from electrocution, another from a fallen tree, while the 3rd fatality was reported in Clark County. Severe storms and tornadoes hit multiple states. An EF1 tornado damaged Ada, Oklahoma, one of at least 8 across Oklahoma, Texas, and Louisiana. Tornado warnings were issued in the Carolinas, Florida, and Virginia. Near Dallas, the storm's wind gusts collapsed a warehouse, tore roofs, and downed power lines. According to PowerOutage.us, by Wednesday morning, nearly 300,000 people lost power across 12 states, including 70,000 in Texas. The strong winds and dry vegetation also sparked wildfires across multiple areas in Texas. According to County Judge David Krebs, one blaze in San Patricio County near Corpus Christi destroyed at least 20 homes and structures. In Louisiana, powerful winds disrupted Mardi Gras. 2 EF1 tornadoes hit Caddo Parish, and several New Orleans parades were shortened or canceled, though celebrations continued. Blizzards brought whiteout conditions to Iowa, Minnesota, and Michigan with 70 miles per hour winds and over a foot of snow. The storm is expected to move out Thursday, but strong winds may still cause damage. Meanwhile, a Pacific storm is set to bring heavy rain and snow to the west. Christina Corona, NTD News.
An avalanche has trapped multiple people heli-skiing in the Alaskan backcountry. Alaska State Troopers said the avalanche occurred yesterday afternoon near the skiing community of Girdwood. The town is located about 40 miles south of Anchorage. Now, the condition of the skiers is not immediately clear. According to the National Avalanche Center, 25 to 30 people die in avalanches each winter in the U.S. On February 8th, a well-known outdoor guide was killed in an avalanche in Utah. 3 people died in avalanches 10 days later. 1 person near Lake Tahoe and 2 backcountry skiers in Oregon's Cascade Mountains were the ones who were killed. On February 20th, a Crested Butte snowboarder was killed in a slide west of Silverton. Another person was killed in an avalanche in central Colorado on February 22nd. When we come back, what could Democrats learn from Trump's address to Congress last night? We'll speak with a political strategist after the break.
What has lasted 5,000 years was once almost lost. Now, the world awaits the divine culture's return.
I can't get a hold of my mom.
I'm sure it's nothing.
I've called her 5 times.
I'm sure she's fine.
Is Grandma okay? Help! I've fallen and I can't get up.
Don't worry, ma'am. We're sending help right now.
Hello?
Hello, this is Life Alert. Your mother had an emergency, and we dispatched paramedics to her home.
Oh my gosh, what happened?
She had a fall, but don't worry. She is safe, and the paramedics are helping her right now.
Thank you.
Life Alert saves a life every 11 minutes. With one simple touch of a button, Life Alert sends help immediately. Whether it's to report a fall, a medical emergency, or an intruder, Life Alert sends first responders fast.
For a free brochure, call 800-382-9846. 800-382-9846. That's 800-382-9846.
There is a road laid out for me.
Boxes everywhere. And this is gonna be Addie's room.
I think you're really gonna like it.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I know this road is there for me.
First night here, but Amy seems cool.
Waist down by the river. I am blind, but I need not see.
I got this.
I know this road is there for me.
Okay.
If I'm really free, take me down to the river and wash me.
At Mathis Home, we understand that your home is a reflection of you. And during our spring style event, we have fresh new looks that are waiting to make your home look and feel great at the lowest prices. And with all the latest styles in bloom, you'll find savings in every department. Whether it's a clean and modern sectional or a rustic and traditional dining table, we have it in stock with fast and free delivery. Come find the look that's right for you at our spring style event at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
Welcome back to Newsroom. President Trump's address to Congress last night is the talk of the town today. Now we're going to break down the Democratic Party's reaction to the speech and what comes next as we look already to the next midterm elections. Joining us now live is political strategist Dante Mills. He's also an attorney and founding partner of Mills and Edwards. Dante, always great to have you on. We saw a huge approval
thank you for having
rating.
me.
We saw a huge approval rating for President Trump's speech last night, according to polls across party lines, but that wasn't the reaction in the room from Democratic lawmakers. Tell me more about what their strategy was last night.
I think the strategy was to disrupt and to make it clear that they did not believe the way President Trump was governing the country is appropriate. However, I don't think it was effective. I do believe it was a really good address last night. And one thing that we know about President Trump is he knows how to present well. He's, be it his reality TV background or whatever it is, he can put a presentation together. And I think he did that. He knows that the majority of Americans was not going to watch that speech from start to finish last night. What they were going to do is watch clips this morning, this afternoon. And he put enough pieces in there that if you put those pieces together and put those clips together, it makes for a phenomenal presentation. He had a lot of moments that he created where he had different citizens and Americans in different situations, whether it was surviving cancer or being brought home from being a prisoner or someone, the family of someone whose life was taken. He had those moments built into the speech, and nowadays those things go viral and people judge the speech based off of that. And I think he was successful at that, and he did very well with it. I don't know if the speech was filled with a lot of details about policy, but he felt like he didn't have to. And I think the Democratic Party kind of fell a little bit because they tried to steal his moment. They weren't successful. So it looks like they didn't do anything, and that's a problem for the Democratic Party.
And building off of that, Dante, we saw a lot of Democrats refusing to clap for some of those individuals that the president had invited to the address. Do you see that as more of harming the Democratic Party's popularity among the public?
Let's talk about this, how phenomenal President Trump is at controlling the narrative. He's phenomenal at it. We know, generally in these speeches, one party stands up and the other party stays seated. One party claps and cheers and the other party generally does not, because it's a bipartisan thing. It shouldn't be that way, but that's the way it is. And when you go back through history, one party is always more quiet while the other party, whoever the person is speaking, is supporting them. President Trump knew that. So he set the stage and controlled the narrative and said, hey, guys, can we all be together on this day, knowing that wasn't going to happen? So he created the situation that when the Democratic Party did not stand up, when they didn't cheer in certain scenarios, it looked like they were just bad people because President Trump asked them if the country can be united for the night, knowing that's not generally how it works. So I don't think it was ever an expectation that the Democratic Party would stand up and cheer for President Trump. He knew that, but he created that narrative so it could look better for him when they didn't, and it worked. The Democratic Party looked like they had no heart. They looked like they weren't trying to unite the country, but they were just doing what both parties do whenever the other person's leader is speaking. So it's a situation that was created by Donald Trump. I think he did it very well. And I think the Democrats are now feeling the effects because they look like the bad guys.
Dante, some numbers for you here. In a CNN post-speech poll, we saw that 69% of viewers said they had a positive reaction to the president's speech. I believe CBS's poll showed 76%. Now, of course, it is important to note that a majority of the viewership last night was Republican. But still, do you think that this reflects on the Democrats perhaps being out of touch with the opinions of the American public right now?
I'll be the first one to tell you that the Democratic Party is out of touch. I think you don't have to be a political strategist to know that. You just have to look at the last election. The Republican Party controls the Senate, the House, the White House. And they won a lot of those elections by large margins, a lot of swing states that would generally be in question. There was no question. So I think it's understood that the Democratic Party doesn't have a true leader right now. They don't have a true voice. They don't have a true message. And the longer they go without one, the stronger the Republican Party is going to get, because they're going to see that at least their party is trying to do something. So I hope that this was a wake-up call for the Democratic Party to say we have to stop just saying Trump is bad, but replace it with something. But here's what's good. Here's what needs to be happening. Here's what we will do to make your lives better. And that's how they snatch some of the attention back. That's how they snatch some of the trust of the American people back and the strength of the party back.
Well, Dante, how can the Democratic Party get back to having a solid, unifying message and something material to give to the American public to say, hey, this is what we stand for and here's how we're going to get there?
It's pretty simple. By saying just what you just said. This is what we stand for, and here's how we're going to get there. But it has to be specific. If you look at the last the last president, even going back to Clinton, his big pitch was home ownership. He wrote on that. I'm going to make sure everybody has the opportunity to own a home, and this is how we're going to do it. President Obama, healthcare. I'm going to make sure everybody has access to healthcare. Here's how I'm going to do it. President Trump, you want to talk about immigration? I'm going to shut down the border. Here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to make sure everybody in America is safe. What now is the Democratic Party putting forward that we can say is the linchpin of the party, that everybody in America can look and say, you know what? This is what the Democratic Party is going to do for me, and this is how they're going to do it. So they need to come up with that one issue that they can promise you they will make better. That's important enough for enough people to believe in and say, this is the one issue that's going to sway me, the one issue that's going to cause me to get behind you, because I trust that you're going to make this one issue better. I think it could be jobs, manufacturing. We're going to bring jobs back to America. We're going to give you a place to work where you can start off on an assembly line and work up and be a supervisor or whatever it is. That may be the issue, or it may be something else, but it has to be something concrete that people can believe in and trust that you'll get a result from.
And Dante, going back to a point you made earlier, it's just kind of the way these addresses go. One side of the room stands up, the other automatically just sits down. Do you think the American people are maybe getting tired of seeing this almost automatic opposition to anything Trump does? And if so, how can lawmakers change that?
Maybe. I don't know. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors, because there's no expectation that the Democratic Party is all of a sudden going to rally behind the Republican Party. That's not going to happen. Just like there will be no expectation when Joe Biden was giving that address that the Republicans will be standing up and cheering and clapping for him. There's no realistic expectation of that. And I think it's important for us to have opposing parties, because you want one side to challenge the other so everybody doesn't get complacent and nothing happens. So you need people to challenge each other. That's okay. But with the challenge, it has to be more than this person is bad. You have to show what you want to do that's better, or what they should be doing that's better. And that's the missing piece. I think the opposition party is needed, but the opposition party has to include ways to make the country better And that's what's missing right now from the Democratic Party and why they're kind of flailing. You know, it's not a good situation right now.
Absolutely, and I think you bring up a really important point there. This sort of constructive opposition is really what makes up democracy. Dante, before we go here, midterms, they're coming up, whether you like it or not. What kind of a change in strategy among Democrats do you think we could see, or that you think we should see going forward? Talk to us more about that. What do they need to do to win more seats?
Sure, they need to identify a specific issue. That's what's going to get this party back. If they can identify one issue that America believes is important enough and that they have ideas for how to make it better, then they can kind of steal the party back, right? And get people back on board. I think one thing that was interesting that President Trump talked about last night is he said it's going to be a rough time. He knows that those tariffs, I think he truly believes the tariffs will ultimately work, but he knows it's going to get worse before it gets better, and people are going to feel it in their pocketbooks for the next year or two maybe before there becomes a turnaround. So coming up on the midterms, people may be unhappy that they're spending more in a supermarket. So the Democrats have an opportunity because the tariffs are going to hurt us for a while. Hopefully they work on the long run, but it's going to be a downside. And President Trump even acknowledged that yesterday. He said, kind of bear with me while we go through this tough time. So the Democrats have an opportunity to step in and say, you guys are going through a tough time here. Here's what we can do that's different. And that's what they need to do in order to get the public back around before these midterms happen, or we're going to see more Republican seats in both the House and the Senate.
And Dante, before we go here, I want to get your take on the Democrat rebuttal that we heard last night from Senator Elisa Slotkin. What did you think of that? Do you think that was going a little bit in the direction that you're hoping the Democratic Party is going in?
No, I don't think so. So a lot of what she talked about yesterday was, both sides. In my household, my mom and dad were on different sides, and just kind of trying to show that there could be a middle ground. But I don't think the middle ground is what's needed right here. There has to be an opposition party, and the Republican Party, led by President Trump, is pushing very hard in one direction. I'm not saying the Democratic Party needs to push equally hard in the other direction, but they can't play the middle. They can't play the middle. They have to take a stand. And you can't gain footing by saying, okay, he's doing a lot of moves, and we're just going to say that, let's just everybody hold hands and hope for the best. That's not the situation. I think they have to be more aggressive and say, that's wrong, but here's what's right. Or that's not going to work, but here's what's going to work. Not let's just all, play kumbaya in this moment, because that's not the energy that the Republican Party is giving. So the Democrats need to match that energy in order to get people to believe in what they're saying and want to trust them to lead the way moving forward.
Absolutely. You bring up some very important points. Dante Mills, thank you for joining us, as always.
Thank you.
Moving on now, Denmark's foreign minister was positive today when talking about President Trump's comments on Greenland during his address to Congress last night. Nevertheless, the Danish government has said the Arctic island is not for sale.
First of all, I would like to draw the attention to the fact that he said we respect the Greenlandics' right to self-determination, and that, I think, was the most important part of that speech. And I am very optimistic about what will be a Greenlandic decision about this.
Trump made a direct appeal to Greenlanders in his speech to Congress yesterday. As Trump put it, "We will keep you safe, we will make you rich, and together we will take Greenland to heights like you have never thought possible before." The island's prime minister declared today that Greenland cannot be taken or purchased. Greenlanders head to the polls for parliamentary elections next week. Coming up next, the U.S. pauses intelligence sharing with Ukraine, a move that limits Ukraine's ability to target Russian forces. Russia, meanwhile, saying future talks with the U.S. will include discussions on Iran's nuclear program. Stay with us.
The bladder control aisle. You won't shop here again. Your private business is your own. The constant struggle is over. Now there's a better way. It's HDIS. We home deliver bladder control products. We understand how you feel. For over 25 years, we've home delivered to many of the 20 million Americans who deal with incontinence. We offer all brands. We pay shipping and use plain, unmarked boxes. If we can help you or someone you care for, call for your free product sample pack and $45 in money-saving coupons. Our counselors will help you choose the right product. And unlike stores, we're always in stock. You'll get what you need. Satisfaction guaranteed. HDIS, the better way.
For your free sample pack with your free catalog, $45 in money-saving coupons, and free product samples, call 1-800-701-6159. That's 1-800-701-6159.
Divinely inspired traditional oil painting inspires compassion. Artwork created in truth and beauty illuminates a path to goodness. Rediscover traditional art, revive classical culture. We warmly invite oil painters from around the world to participate in the 7th NTD International Figure Painting Competition, a celebration of classical realism. Please visit oilpainting.ntdtv.com.
Imagine a coffee that cares for your health. Expertly fermented with a 50 enzyme complex to enhance flavor and remove bitterness. Small batch roasted to a decadent medium dark, resulting in a brew that is gentle on digestion, low acid, and up to 90% less caffeine than regular coffee. Try America's first enzyme fermented coffee today.
Kids love it. Parents trust it. Obviously. Explore GJW Plus Kids Series and Ganjion Campus courses led by expert educators. This is spectacular. Children will learn values like respect, responsibility, and knowledge in language, science, and more. Wow. All while having fun. Perfect. Subscribe today at GJW Plus Kids, where learning meets fun.
Even the mighty might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. Be your own hero.
The United States has paused intelligence sharing with Ukraine. This is a move that will limit Ukraine's ability to target Russian forces. It follows Monday's pause on military aid. Meanwhile, Russia said future talks with the U.S. would include discussions on Iran's nuclear program. NTD's international correspondent Malcolm Hudson has the story.
CIA Director John Ratcliffe on Wednesday said the U.S. has halted intelligence sharing with Ukraine. The move could seriously hamper the Ukrainian military's ability to target Russian forces. U.S. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz told reporters Wednesday morning.
We have taken a step back and are pausing and reviewing all aspects of this relationship.
Since the start of the war in 2022, the U.S. has provided Ukraine with significant intelligence, including critical information its military needs for targeting purposes. Waltz also said the U.S. was actively engaged in talks with Ukraine on a minerals deal and a potential peace deal with Russia.
I think we're going to see movement in very short order.
Waltz, in an interview with Fox and Friends, said President Trump will consider restoring military aid to Ukraine if peace talks are arranged and confidence-building measures are taken. Trump halted the aid on Monday. On Tuesday night, Trump said he had received a letter from Ukrainian President Zelensky that expressed willingness to come to the negotiating table. Waltz said officials were in discussions over a date, location, and negotiating team that would lead to an end to the war, and are already talking about confidence-building measures to then take to the Russians. The Kremlin on Wednesday said that future talks between Russia and the United States would include discussion on Iran's nuclear program, a subject spokesman Dmitry Peskov said had been touched upon in an initial round of US-Russia talks last month.
Russia's position is that the issue of Iran's nuclear dossier needs to be solved only through political and diplomatic means. In our view, there is potential for it.
Trump last month restored his maximum pressure campaign on Iran, which includes efforts to drive its oil exports down to zero in order to stop Tehran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. Iran denies any such intention. Russia has deepened its ties with the Islamic Republic since the start of the Ukraine war and signed a strategic cooperation treaty with Iran in January. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News.
The Chinese Communist Party says it would increase defense spending by more than 7% this year. The rate is the same as last year, but still far below the double-digit percentage increase of the years prior, a sign that China's reeling economy has not kept up with the regime's ambitions. China's military spending remains the second largest in the world, right behind the U.S., though China already has the world's largest navy, that is. The Chinese regime has been upping its aggression in recent years. In the South China Sea, Beijing's Coast Guard ships have rammed into Filipino boats. To the east, the Chinese Navy has been staging drills near Taiwan, sending ships into waters near Japan. And in the Pacific, Chinese and Russian bombers were in a joint patrol in the airspace near Alaska in 2024. When we come back, President Trump is delaying some tariffs on cars from our neighbors to the north and to the south. That and much more in the next hour. Stay with us.
Hi friends, Richard Karn here. Now I'm known as the guy who can fix just about anything, but the technology in most appliances requires very special training to fix. My point is, even I know when I've met my match, and that's why my family has Choice Home Warranty. So we won't get stuck with high-priced repairs.
Choice Home Warranty covers over 25 major home systems and appliances. That's your AC, heating, plumbing, kitchen and laundry appliances, and so much more.
Imagine for less than a cup of coffee a day, Choice Home Warranty can help protect you from expensive major system and appliance breakdowns that your homeowner's insurance doesn't cover. But you have to call now before it's too late.
Every homeowner should have Choice Home Warranty. Your homeowner's insurance is not going to cover your appliances.
Washing machine, dryer, refrigerator, air conditioner. If I had any issues arise, they were able to take care of it immediately.
Now, homeowner's insurance won't protect you when your home's major systems and appliances break down due to normal wear and tear. But Choice Home Warranty will. They can help cover repairs and replacements.
Choice Home Warranty is the best warranty we've ever used. It would save you so much money in the long run.
Hey, I'm not the only one raving about Choice Home Warranty. They were named a Best Home Warranty Company and Best Claim Service by US News 360 Reviews.
Call Choice Home Warranty now and get access to a nationwide network of over 15,000 technicians and the latest appointment setting technology so you'll know when they're on their way.
If I have an issue with an appliance or something around the house, I just call up Choice Home Warranty and I don't have to worry about that.
So, do what this old DIYer did and call Choice Home Warranty now before something breaks down. Tell them I sent you and get your first month free.
Call Choice Home Warranty before it's too late and get protection for your heating, AC, plumbing, kitchen and laundry appliances, and more. Call for your free quote today. Call in the next 5 minutes and get your first month free. 800-360-6782. 800-360-6782.
I am so glad you ladies are here. You each have your own rooms.
Thank you.
Get settled in. I'll call you for dinner. Adopting teen sisters, it's a lot. Girls, you're gonna be late. You want breakfast?
No thanks, we're good.
They're always in their own world.
How'd you get there?
Twice the work. Twice the surprises.
Just try it.
But if you think of it that way, they're also twice as fulfilling.
I think you should ask her yourself.
Is it okay to call you Mom?
Of course you can.
There are real consequences to controlled media. And NTD's founders know them firsthand. Our freedom of thought is the price. This is the lesson that guides us in everything we do.
So there's the tear gas there.
We know the value of a free society. and we take seriously the responsibility to preserve it. We are NTD.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. Our stories today. Senator Elisa Slotkin delivered the Democratic rebuttal to President Trump's address to Congress last night. She called for a solution to what she described as a broken immigration system. The Supreme Court deals a blow to Trump's pause on foreign aid. Justices have ordered that payments for completed work must resume. Antiquated and in desperate need of layers of updates, the FAA lays out what's required to bring the air traffic control system up to speed. Tapping on the brakes, President Trump is delaying some tariffs on cars from our neighbors to the north and south. President Trump wants no tax on tips to help those Americans hit hard by inflation. How much would it help? And is the policy fair? An NTD data deep dive.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. The Supreme Court ruled today that the Trump administration must resume payments to foreign aid organizations for work they've already done. The High Court's 5-4 decision upholds an order to release funding for contractors at the U.S. Agency for International Development and the State Department. Aid organizations said in a Supreme Court filing they would face extraordinary and irreversible harm if the funding freeze continues. President Trump is pursuing what he has called an America First agenda, ordering a 90-day pause on all foreign aid on his first day back in office. Trump and Department of Government Efficiency head Elon Musk continue to search for and cut what they call is waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government. Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard are visiting the U.S.-Mexico border this afternoon. Take a look.
Who are still dealing with the budgetary consequences of what the Joe Biden administration allowed to happen at the American southern border. And that, too, is something that President Trump is going to help address, help fix, and help solve. Now, I wanted to bring Secretary Hegseth and Director Gabbard at DNI down here because, one, I obviously enjoy their company, and it's good to have them down here with me looking around today. But unfortunately, we know that because of what's happened, the border crisis has become a matter of national intelligence, and it's also become something that requires the Department of Defense to engage with. I was talking with Paul Perez earlier. The drone technology that the cartels are using requires, unfortunately, a military response and military support. So it was important for Secretary Hegseth to see what's going on because we know that the millions and millions of people who were let in over the last 4 years, many of them are connected to foreign terrorists. It's important for our leader of national intelligence to get a sense of what's here on the ground. So before we take questions from the press, and all of us are willing to take questions, I want to give Secretary Hegseth and then Director Gabbard an opportunity to say a few words themselves. Mr. Secretary.
Well, Mr. Vice President, thank you very much for inviting us. It's great to be here with you, with the director, with our fellow friends in civilian clothes and in other shades of green. This is a demonstration of a true partnership on the southern border. As President Trump has made clear on the campaign trail and from day one and last night, border security is national security. And from the Defense Department, we've watched for a couple of decades other people's borders being secured while ours was open for an invasion of drugs and of violence and of chaos for American communities. That stops under President Trump. And the Defense Department has assets that we can bring to bear, not just troops, not just surveillance, not just equipment, but actual planning and capabilities that enhance what Border Patrol is already doing, which is why it's been incredible to hear from our partners about what we've been able to allow them to do, facilitate them, and we've seen it in the numbers. 98% drop in crossings on the southern border. We're not yet at 100% operational control, but we are on our way because that is the mandate that the president has given us. So more resources are coming to this border. We are dedicated to securing it. That's the reason for our trip and our partnership. And I want to thank all the men and women who've been doing it recently in uniform, who have been doing it a long time right here, have dedicated their lives to securing the American people. And at the Defense Department, we are committed to continuing to being a big part of it. So, Mr. Vice President, thanks for having us.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. Great. Now, Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, for your leadership in bringing the country's attention to what has been happening here at the border and the significant change that has already occurred under the short time that President Trump has been in office. Really, what you're seeing here today and what you'll continue to see is a unified effort across President Trump's national security team, the Department of Homeland Security, towards our mission, which is to ensure a safe, free, and prosperous society for Americans. As Director of National Intelligence, there are a number of areas where we are focused. The President talked about in his speech, over 21 million people have come across our borders illegally under Joe Biden's administration. There are many of them that we don't know who they are. They have not been vetted. We don't know where they are. I'll give you one quick example of one of the problems that we are getting after. From Central Asia, there were over 4,000 people who came across our borders using an ISIS-affiliated network. Our National Counterterrorism Center went through and identified those individuals. There were hundreds of them who were either known terrorists or associated with known terrorists. That information was provided to the Biden administration. You may remember in some of the news, a little over 100 of those people were arrested in 2024. Of those who were arrested, only 8 were either deported or remained in custody. Only 8. The rest of them were released back into our country. Where are they? What are they doing? What may they be plotting? This is just the beginning. There are many, many areas that we need to stay very focused on, working with the Department of Homeland Security, working with the FBI to ensure that we're keeping the American people safe. Our Counterterrorism Center is working on making sure that we have that single source for vetting so that we can figure out who is actually in our country and identify those who pose a threat and get them removed. The President's designation of the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations falls directly into this, especially as we're seeing some of the tactics that these cartels are using reflect some of the tactics that we've seen used by Islamist terrorists in countries that many of us have served in overseas. Our mission is very clear. Our objective is to keep the American people safe. I'm grateful to be a part of this team that President Trump has assembled to accomplish that mission. Thank you.
So before I take questions, let me just say 2 final things. First of all, the reason why we've seen, as Pete said, a 98% reduction of border crossings, the reason why this particular site has gone from over 1,500 crossings per day to 30 crossings per day is because President Trump has empowered and, in fact, demanded that his whole government take the task of border control seriously. And that's exactly what we're doing. And of course, and this leads to my final point before we take questions, it is impossible to do without the men and women on the ground who are actually doing the hard work. They just want to be empowered to do their jobs. President Trump has made that possible. So from the bottom of my heart and for a grateful nation, to every person I've met here today, thank you for working hard on the American people's business. It's been an honor to be with you. It's been an honor to see what you do, and we're going to keep on supporting you over the next 4 years. Congressman Gonzalez, thank you for being here, and thank you for your leadership. And now we'll take some questions from reporters. Sir.
So, as you guys have been exemplifying for today that border crossings are down, a lot of attention has been turned to the interior since obviously there's been a lot of illegal immigrants. What is, in your opinion, the biggest obstacle to actually carrying out President Trump's mass deportations? Even though, yes, like apprehensions and arrests and deportations have gone up in his first month, but a lot of people are expecting a bigger capacity for deportation. So what's the biggest hurdle?
So let me say a few things about that. So first of all, Rome wasn't built in a day. And we have seen pretty significant increases in deportations and apprehensions and arrests. But we have to remember that President Biden gutted the entire immigration enforcement regime of this country. We are trying to rebuild so that we actually empower people to enforce the immigration laws of the American people. It is common sense. It's what the American people want us to do. There are a couple of other things that we're working on. I don't want to get ahead of any public announcements, but one of the ways that we want to make sure that we're enforcing our border is that we make it easier for people who are here illegally to go back home of their own accord. We don't want to have to go around and arrest every person, but we will enforce the American people's immigration laws. If you're here illegally, the message from our administration is you should go back home, and if you want to come to the United States, apply through the proper channels. That's an important thing that we're doing. And the final thing is this costs money. One of the most important parts of the president's reconciliation priorities is, of course, tax reform on the one hand, and on the other hand, making sure that we get proper resources so that we can pay for the flights, and we can pay for the detention centers, and we can pay for all the components necessary to ensure that we're re-migrating illegal immigrants back to their country of origin. I guarantee it is a part of the president's priorities. We'll keep on working on it. We've made a lot of progress, but we're going to keep on working on it over the remainder of the president's term. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Vice President, I want to ask you about border wall and tariffs. But first on the border wall, how do you and the president...
Could you say your outlet, by the way, when you guys ask questions?
Yeah, Reagan Reese, Daily Caller.
Thank you.
How do you and the president define success this term with the border wall, and how much of the southern border wall needs to be walled off before Trump leaves office?
Well, look, I think the president's hope is that by the end of the term, we build the entire border wall. And of course, that's the physical structure of the border wall itself. But we even heard today, there are so many good technological tools, so many great artificial intelligence enabled technologies that allow us, for example, a camera, not a person, but a camera picks up somebody 2 miles away who's about to come across the southern border. Maybe it's livestock, right? Maybe it's a critter in the desert. Maybe it's a human being with a weapon on their back. We're using artificial intelligence to make us better at the job of border enforcement, but we've got to make sure that technology is deployed across the entire American southern border. We're going to do it as much as we can, as broadly as we can, because that's how we're going to protect the American people's security. Yeah, go ahead.
Last time they were paused because they deployed 10,000 troops to the border. What can they do this time to make the tariffs go away?
Well, what the president has said is we need a sustained commitment from the government of Mexico to take the job of border security seriously. Fentanyl is the single largest cause of death among young Americans, and we know that a substantial portion of it is, the precursors are made in China. They come to Mexico, they're manufactured in Mexico and brought across the border by the Mexican drug cartels. We want to see fewer Americans dying of these terrible fentanyl overdoses when we're going to apply as much leverage as possible to the Mexican government as possible. In some ways, look, the president obviously cares deeply about the American people. He serves the American people first. I actually think he's doing a huge favor to the people of Mexico, because if they don't get control of these cartels, the people of Mexico are going to wake up in a narco state where the cartels have more power than their own government. President Trump is trying to help. The Mexican government needs to take this issue of immigration enforcement seriously. In the back, yeah.
Mr. Vice President, Ali Bradley, News Nation. So since the designation of the cartels as terrorists, does that give the United States the green light to go into Mexico and to strike them there? I mean, right now, obviously, they've struck in the Houthis in Yemen. So why not, when we've seen cross-border violence, go after them in Mexico? And then my second question is about a designation I'll follow up on, please.
Go ahead and ask the second question.
Why isn't the Juarez/La Línea cartel designated when it's in one of the most deadliest places on the planet? Juarez has been designated as one of the deadliest cities. It's right across from El Paso. We've talked to community leaders. They say, we know Juarez cartel's operating in the U.S., and so are their affiliates. We don't even want to talk about it out loud, though, because then we'll put a target on our back. They're scared. Border Patrol even thought they were designated, but they're not. The State Department didn't tell me why.
So on that, we're looking at additional organizations. Obviously, this is the determination of whether to determine a particular organization, a terrorist organization, is something that we consult with our leaders of the Department of Defense. We also consult with our friends in other governments. We maintain the optionality to designate further organizations, terrorist organizations, if we feel that we need to in order to protect the American people. And I think President Trump has made it very clear he's not going to be shy about designating some of these cartel organizations as terrorists if he thinks he has to protect the American people. Your first question was about
American forces to strike.
Oh, sorry, yeah. So look, I'm not going to make any announcements about any invasions of Mexico here today. The president has a megaphone, and of course he'll speak to these issues as he feels necessary. But what designating cartel organizations allows us to do is deploy the full resources of the United States military to engage in serious border enforcement. Of course, the president is going to make the determination about how we deploy those forces, but our hope is that Mexico takes this job seriously. We don't want to have negative relationships with the Mexican government. We want the Mexican government to help itself, but also in the process to help the American people by taking these organizations seriously. It's going to destabilize the entire country of Mexico, the entire government, if they don't take it more seriously. We're hopeful that they will. And if they don't, then of course, we'll figure out what to do from there.
So, you just mentioned something about invasion of Mexico. Is there any talk or any thoughts about actually U.S. military forces going into Mexico?
No. Next question.
On tariffs, are any other industries other than automotive reaching out to you guys to carve out special deals? And did the automotive industry know this was coming before today?
Well, a number of industries have reached out to us to ask us for exceptions to the tariffs, but I think the president's been very clear here that he wants the tariffs to apply broadly. He doesn't want to have 500 different industries getting 500 different carve-outs, and the way to avoid application of the tariffs is to have your factory and have your facility in the United States of America. That is the way. Invest in America. That is how you will avoid being penalized by these tariffs.
Vice President, KSAT 12, John Paul Barajas. You've been talking about the improvements that your administration has done here with the crossings. Can you talk about the decline prior to President Trump taking office under the Biden administration?
Well, I think like so many Americans, apparently members of the Mexican drug cartel figured out in November and December after the election that Joe Biden was asleep at the wheel and they had to be dealing with the then president-elect and now president. If you look at what drove the declines before the inauguration, people will tell you they knew that Donald Trump was coming back into office. They knew he was going to take border enforcement seriously. And so they were already getting ahead of actually cutting down those illegal crossing numbers. We saw that from the Mexican government, of course, because we were threatening some economic sanctions against them. But we also saw it from the cartels themselves. And even today, because, of course, it doesn't, it takes a little time to get from the deepest parts of Central America to the American southern border. What we often find is that there are massive numbers of illegal immigrants who have already started to make the trek and have decided, you know what, because Donald Trump's president, we're going to go back home. We heard today about a Honduran group of migrants who decided they're just going to go back home because they recognize that under Donald Trump's leadership, we take border enforcement seriously. Thank you all. Take care.
And you were just watching Vice President J.D. Vance, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard visiting Eagle Pass, Texas at the southern border, with J.D. Vance being the highest-ranking official in the Trump administration's second term to visit. Next, a U.S. judge today blocked the Trump administration from cutting federal grant funding for research at medical schools and universities nationwide. The injunction came at the request of 22 Democratic state attorneys general and related groups. The administration said it was capping the rate at which it reimbursed research institutes for indirect costs such as laboratory, space, faculty equipment, and infrastructure. The cap would be at 15%, down from an average of 28%. NIH said this would save the government $4 billion a year. U.S. District Judge Angel Kelly in Boston agreed the National Institutes of Health's planned funding cuts were unlawful. The judge is an appointee of Democratic former President Joe Biden. All right, we're going to head on to break, and after the break, we're going to come back with Business Matters and a report from our Sean Marshall.
I'm Amy Grant, and I want to talk to you from my heart about the heart. I would have been the last person on the list to say this woman has a problem with her heart. So no, there was nothing about my life that said, you have a ticking time bomb in your chest. But I did. I wound up in the office of a cardiologist because I was there with my husband. And at the tail end of that, the cardiologist looked at me and said, I want to see you. No one was more surprised than I was to learn I was living with a rare heart condition. He said, Amy, this condition, you'll be fine, and then catastrophic. A few months later, I had open heart surgery that saved my life. And I owe it to the research and life-saving medical breakthroughs developed by the American Heart Association. That's why I'm asking you to join me and become a monthly donor to the American Heart Association. Please call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough, get the next person trained in CPR, and get the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. If this could happen to me, it could happen to anybody. Heart disease is America's #1 killer, but your support can save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt you can wear to show you're part of a community of monthly donors working to help save more lives like mine. I'm grateful for the American Heart Association. Their research gave me more time to do the things I love with the people I love. So listen to your heart. I'm here today because I did. Please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now to become a monthly donor and help save even more lives. Thank you.
This past year has been one of the hardest in MyPillow's history. It's because of you that we're making it through. My employees and I want to thank you for your continued support by extending our wholesale prices on classic MyPillows. Get standard classic MyPillows only $14.98. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Only $14.98. But it gets even better. Upgrade to a queen size MyPillow for just $18.98. King size only $1 more. Get my body pillows $29.98 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of these wholesale prices, including my standard size MyPillow, originally $49.98, now only $14.98. Queens $18.98, Kings only $1 more. Not only that, order $75 or more, ship absolutely free.
From all of us here at MyPillow, thanks, America!
For today's Business Matters, President Trump has agreed to delay tariffs for 1 month on some vehicles built in North America after a call with the CEO of General Motors and Ford and the chair of Stellantis. The automakers urged Trump to waive 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada on vehicles that comply with the 2020 U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement rules of origin. The move will benefit U.S. automakers and other foreign automakers that are in compliance. The North American auto supply chain is highly integrated throughout the United States, Canada, and Mexico as parts across the border in various stages of manufacturing that could expose car companies to multiple tariffs. In an email seen by Reuters, Stellantis told the dealers it was willing to expand U.S. investment. It also said it needs time before making major changes. U.S. air traffic control is showing its age. The FAA says upgrading the system will require multiple technologies and companies. Lawmakers have criticized the antiquated system. The Government Accountability Office says 1/3 of the system is unsustainable. The FAA says it's testing multiple communication technologies, including satellites, fiber, and wireless to ensure the safety of U.S. airspace. For example, the agency is testing Elon Musk's Starlink systems at several agency sites. It's happening in Alaska, Oklahoma City, and Atlantic City. The FAA said no decisions have been made or other developments as well. A Biden bill could be on the chopping block under the Trump administration to pay off U.S. debt. President Trump has called on lawmakers to kill the CHIPS Act. The bipartisan law gives nearly $53 billion in subsidies for semiconductor chip manufacturing and production. Biden, under him, 5 leading global semiconductor firms all agreed to locate factories in the U.S. using government grants. Trump slammed the bill, saying we don't have to give them money, suggesting that avoiding new tariffs could be incentive enough. The president said we should get rid of the law and use what's left to reduce debt. A leading semiconductor manufacturer is agreeing with the president in part. The CEO of GlobalFoundries says he thinks U.S. tariffs on foreign-made chips could help boost demand for U.S.-made chips. But Thomas Caulfield says he doesn't think just tariffs or the CHIPS Act is enough. Instead, he explains CHIPS Act and tax credits help boost capacity to make chips here in the U.S., while tariffs could make foreign chips more expensive, which would help steer customers toward chips produced in the U.S. in its factories. Caulfield made these comments at an investor conference hosted by Morgan Stanley. The United Auto Workers Union said it supported President Trump's tariffs in a statement yesterday. The union said they were glad to see Trump take what they call an aggressive action on ending the free trade disaster. This is after UAW accused corporations of prioritizing foreign manufacturing over domestic production. About 150,000 members work for the big 3 automakers, General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis. The device that connects us to the internet could be a security threat. The House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party is urging Americans to remove Chinese-made wireless routers from their homes, including those made by TP-Link. A research firm found that TP-Link is the top seller of Wi-Fi routers internationally by unit volume. The committee is warning that Chinese-made routers could open the door for China to hack critical infrastructure in the U.S. TP-Link said in a statement that the hearing provided no evidence the firm was connected to authorities in China. The company added that any claims suggesting its products posed a unique risk to U.S. national security are baseless. An Atlanta-based parking app that fell victim to a data breach has reached nearly a $33 million settlement. In 2021, roughly 21 million American users of Park Mobile potentially had personal information, including phone numbers and home addresses, exposed. The company denies claims that personal information wasn't adequately secured. Final approval for the settlement is expected to be granted later this month by a federal judge. Today is the final day to submit a claim. And Dig is making a comeback 2 decades later. Its founder, Kevin Rose, has teamed up with former Reddit rival Alexis Ohanian to buy back the once popular platform. Dig was dubbed the homepage of the internet, but it lost ground after it was sold to a tech incubator, and all its most valuable assets were scooped up by Microsoft's LinkedIn. Rose and Ohanian have acquired Dig for an undisclosed amount. Dig's new CEO, Justin Mazel, said the new Dig will initially lean on nostalgia, so when people log in, it feels familiar. Invites for the new version will roll out in the coming weeks. YouTube is ramping up its competition with other media subscription services like Spotify and Netflix by rolling out a cheaper subscription tier. It will still remove ads, but not from music. NTD Sean Marshall has details.
Alphabet's YouTube on Wednesday rolled out a $7.99 monthly subscription service that's ad-free for most videos except music, creating a plan to compete more directly with offerings from streaming companies like Netflix and Disney. YouTube Global Head of Music Leor Cohen explained, in 2015, many doubted that a subscription model could thrive on YouTube. They said the market was crowded and our platform was too different. Today, 100 million subscribers later, our distinctiveness is precisely what drives our success and why I still see so much room for growth. The new Premium Lite plan is aimed at customers who rarely watch music videos or listen to music. YouTube has a substantial number of viewers who seldom use the function and may gravitate to the new service. YouTube's existing $13.99 premium plan has no ads, including for music, while a separate $10.99 plan offers ad-free music, videos, and other videos with ads, essentially the reverse of the new plan. The company began testing Premium Light last year in Australia, Germany, and Thailand. According to YouTube VP of Engineering John Harding, preliminary data showed a new user base of first-time subscribers paying for Premium Light, with some later upgrading to Premium. More people upgraded than those who downgraded to the cheaper plan. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
YouTube is cracking down on some types of gambling-related content. The platform said yesterday it will no longer allow content that directs users to unapproved gambling websites through links, images, text, or verbal references. This builds on an existing YouTube policy that prohibits linking to external sites that violate its rules. YouTube also said it will begin age-restricting content that promotes online casinos, so it won't be viewable to users under 18 and those who are not logged in. The platform said it plans to begin enforcing the updated policies on March 19th. New tech at a lower cost, Apple has unveiled its new MacBook Air models with the latest M4 chip, that is, and they're cheaper than previous generations. The company is trying to entice users to upgrade their devices to boost sales. The new AI-enabled personal computers are expected to drive a recovery in the personal computer market this year. Apple has been rolling out its suite of AI features in various languages and regions since the features first began on iPhones last year. The base model of the new laptops with a 13-inch screen is priced just under $1,000. Meanwhile, many job seekers are having a tough time finding a place to pick up a paycheck. Private sector hiring collapsed last month, according to payroll giant ADP. The findings show an increase of roughly 77,000 jobs in February. That's down from the previous month and about half the amount expected by many economists. Officials at ADP say a drop in consumer spending and uncertainty about national politics played a role, causing many companies to ease up on bringing in new staffers. Areas seeing a lot of recent job losses include trade, transportation, and utilities, as well as education and health services. Now, it's a move that could shake up maritime trade in the Panama Canal and beyond. Investment company BlackRock and others are buying a majority stake in ports on the Panama Canal. The seller operates dozens of ports across the globe, this after pressure from President Trump to limit China's influence in the region. NTD's David Lam reports.
A group of investors has agreed to purchase a majority stake in Hutchison Port Holdings, which is part of Hong Kong-based conglomerate CK Hutchison, as announced on Tuesday. The company owns ports in the Panama Canal, the world's second busiest interoceanic waterway. The buyers include Global Infrastructure Partners, Terminal Investment, and BlackRock, which is known as one of the world's largest asset managers. They'll control 80% of the Hutchison Ports Group, which operates 43 ports in 23 countries. But ports in Hong Kong, Shenzhen, and other cities in China are excluded under the agreement. The group will also acquire 90% of Panama Ports Company, which operates the 2 ports in Balboa and Cristobal in Panama. CK Hutchison has been operating the ports for more than 2 decades. Although it's not financially tied to the Chinese regime, Hong Kong firms are subject to its oversight. The $22.8 billion deal would bring the key ports under U.S. corporate control. This comes after President Trump's pressure to limit China's influence in the region. The canal is key to global and U.S. trade, as 2/3 of goods passing through the channel heads into or out of the United States. David Lam, NTD News.
The world's biggest fashion label is entering the beauty product industry. Louis Vuitton will start selling makeup this fall. The company is expanding to find new areas of growth to offset a current slump. The fashion industry is especially struggling to reignite interest from younger shoppers, worn down by inflation. Louis Vuitton isn't the only label to branch into cosmetics. High-end fashion houses Hermes and Valentino and Celine, which is also owned by LVMH, also have makeup lines. Louis Vuitton has tapped British makeup artist Pat McGrath to lead creative direction for the new venture. The company will sell lipstick, lip balm, and eyeshadow. Taco Bell is crunching the competition. The fast food giant has forecast 8% sales growth for the current quarter at stores that have been open for at least a year. That far outpaces its rivals, many of which say sales have been recently sluggish due to inflation in part. Taco Bell's CEO says the Lux Cravings box and its chicken nuggets, which sold out in 2 weeks, are among the most popular items with customers. Taco Bell also plans to add more new items to its menu this year. Adidas announced that it sold its lazy pair of sneakers called Easy at the end of 2024, ending the process of liquidating stock of the lucrative shoe partnership with rapper E. Take a look.
Adidas has put one big controversy behind it. The sportswear giant says it sold the last pair of Yeezy sneakers in the fourth quarter. It had developed the brand with rapper Ye, formerly known as Kanye West. The partnership became hugely profitable, but had to be ditched after anti-Semitic rants by the singer. Adidas has since sold off its stock of Yeezy shoes, donating some of the proceeds to organisations fighting discrimination. The move has left it with a big hole to fill in the US, where the rapper's brand was very popular. The German firm is far from suffering overall, however. Worldwide, it saw growth of 12% last year, with some regions doing even better of late. In Latin America, sales were up by close to a third over the holiday quarter, while North America saw a rise of 15%. Adidas has enjoyed strong demand for retro-styled sneakers like its Samba and Gazelle lines. That has seen it gain market share in the US, capitalising on sagging sales at arch-rival Nike. Adidas now says it has the goal of being the top sportswear brand in every market outside the US. It has a new musical ally to help with that, rolling out a line of sneakers with American singer and designer Pharrell Williams. For the year ahead, it's now expecting growth to hit a high single-digit rate, still robust but slightly down on the previous 12 months. Shares in the firm fell in early trade Wednesday following that outlook.
Okay, on to Wall Street. Main indexes finished higher in choppy trading today. And this is coming as investors actually cheer the likely easing of trade tensions between the U.S. and major trading partners. Now, stocks turned positive after a report said President Donald Trump was considering a 1-month delay of auto tariffs on Canada and Mexico. Equities extended gains after a White House announcement confirmed that Trump agreed to delay tariffs on some vehicles. Now, earlier, Wall Street had lost ground following a mixed economic data as investors also worried about a trade war. So just a quick update on that, and that's it on today's Business Matters. Coming up after the break, should there be tax on tips? President Trump says no. Is that policy fair? What about people who don't earn tips? Do they get a break? And NTD data report after this break. Don't go away.
Looking for a healthy and smooth-tasting brew? Drop by Days Coffee Roasters today and explore our wide selection of specialty-grade, small-batch roasted coffee. Home to North America's first enzyme-fermented coffee, we source a wide selection of specialty-grade coffee beans from around the world, and our baristas are ready to craft your customized brew. Visit Days Coffee at 28 North Street, Middletown, New York. Come experience a brew like no other.
Supermodel Cindy Crawford doesn't just walk the red carpet, she rocks it. At 58, she steals the show and wows the press. Hollywood Life exclaims, Cindy Crawford has never lost her stunning glow. While Page 6 raves, she's still as gorgeous as ever. What is Cindy's secret? It's meaningful beauty. And now with new advanced formulas, it's better than ever. Watch as the appearance of lines and wrinkles are diminished in just weeks. It's no wonder everyone's talking about meaningful beauty.
My makeup artist said, your skin has been looking great lately. What products are you using? And I said, I'm using Meaningful Beauty. And she said, really? I've tried Meaningful Beauty before. I love those products. And then the other lady down in the trailer said, I use Meaningful Beauty. I love it.
Our new and improved formulas deliver age-defying ingredients even deeper into the skin where wrinkles begin. And this brand new offer is Cindy's most exciting ever. Because when you order, you'll get Cindy's exclusive Super Brightening Duo, a $120 value absolutely free. 1st, you'll get 60 of our Revive and Brighten eye masks, the celebrity secret that visibly smooths, awakens, and restores the area around your eyes. Next, discover the power of our Vitamin C Biphase Brightening Oil for an immediate boost of glamour and glow.
I'm not ashamed to say I am 53 years old. Thank you, Cindy.
The total effect of this free gift package? A red carpet ready complexion. Get all this, a $300 value for just $49.95. But you must act quickly. Results guaranteed or your money back.
So make the call or go online now and put yourself on the path to the most beautiful skin of your life. Trust me, it's worth it.
This special offer is not available anywhere else, so don't delay. Scan the code, go to meaningfulbeauty.com, or call the number on your screen now.
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Thanks for hearing me out, bro.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
Welcome back. No tax on tips. That's what President Trump said he wants last night. He says that's to help Americans reeling from inflation. Our data reporter Kevin Hogan looked into the impact this would have. Kevin, take it away.
This wouldn't be the first time that you heard President Trump talk about no tax on your tips. He talked about it in the campaign trail and then to Congress last night. And this is a pretty catchy policy, it sounds like it, but who does it really help and how much of an impact does it make? Well, if you're in the service industry, that could be big bucks for you. I mean, if your potential annual savings, for example, if you're a server, that could be up to $4,300. And if you're a bartender, that's $3,600. So very similar there. That's the upper bound because, again, some service industry members don't make quite enough to actually pay taxes. So zero could actually be the lower bound. But somewhere in that range, depending on how much income you make and how much of that income comes from taxes, comes from tips, could be taxed, right? So this is something that we really need to look at because the question is it really fair? Because think about it, who does this really benefit? I mean, if you make tips, sure, it's going to benefit you, but if you don't, well, that means that you're probably not going to get that same break, right? And I mean, there's a lot more people who don't actually make tips money than people who do. So we have to look at how this impacts the middle and low income workers overall, right? So you got to look at the workforce, right? So tipped workers make up a small proportion of the overall workforce. For all earners, that's only like 2.5%. And for the bottom 25% of earners, so these are low income bracket here, that's about 5%. So there's still a lot of people that do not earn tips who would not be affected by this and wouldn't get that same kind of break, right? So let's just do an example here. Let's say you have a cashier right here, and let's say you have a server, someone who makes tips. So let's say they're both making about $34,000 a year, roughly, right? Well, the server wages are coming from, their hourly wage, but they're also making tip money, okay? But so you look at that and say, okay, well, what is the taxable income if this no tax on tips policy goes through? And then we're going to look at that. That's right here. So, of course, the server would have much less taxable income than the cashier. So what does that amount to? Well, of course, as it seems very obvious, the server is going to pay way less money. I'm only like, that's almost like $2,000 less in taxes than the cashier. So you wonder, well, is this really fair? Well, it's with the Tax Foundation, they say that it's not really that fair, and a better move would just be raise the standard deduction. Right now it's around 15 grand. Just bump that up an extra 6,000 for everyone across the board. That way these two individuals would be paying about the same amount in taxes, and then hopefully you can just beef up the economy later on and then have that revenue that's lost be made up somehow. But how much revenue would the United States lose if it went ahead with this no tax on tips policy and didn't make anything up for it? Well, that's $200 billion in revenue that's coming from those tips, and that's over a decade. So that's no small chunk of change. Now, again, when you address the issue of whether this is fair, President Trump has said that he wants to give tax breaks across the board, so that could level it out, and may have some other policies up his sleeve to help recoup that money that would be lost. Because again, you're talking over $1 trillion with your deficit. You don't want to go further into the hole, so they'd have to be doing something to make up for that. Back to you.
Okay, Kevin, thank you very much for that. Next, the mayors of the 4 largest cities testified before Congress on their so-called sanctuary city status. That's as Congressman James Comer, chair of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee launched an investigation into their cities. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley joins us. Jack, good afternoon. What are the allegations against these cities?
Well, Republican members of Congress here say that these sanctuary city policies impede federal immigration enforcement, essentially blocking federal immigration officers from arresting illegal immigrants. Now, the mayors say that they're not violating any federal laws. Now, some say of these mayors, they say that working with Immigration Customs Enforcement, or ICE, means that illegal immigrants who are victims of crimes won't come forward for fear of retaliation, thereby creating a safe haven for their aggressors. Watch.
If an undocumented individual witnesses a crime but is afraid to call 911 for fear of being turned over to federal authorities, criminals will roam free.
When there is trust between cities' residents and the police, undocumented immigrants come forward to report crimes to local law enforcement and provide information that helps the police solve those crimes.
Now, the Republican members of Congress here highlighted the increasing reports of crimes committed by illegal border crossers. We heard them all throughout the campaign season of parents of victims coming forward. And the Republican members of Congress say that these sanctuary laws protect criminals. Here's Chair James Comer today.
Sanctuary cities make us all less safe and are a public safety nightmare. That is why I launched an investigation into sanctuary cities and why these mayors are here today. We cannot let pro-criminal, alien policies and obstructionist sanctuary cities continue to endanger American communities and the safety of federal immigration enforcement officers.
Now, Trump signed an executive order in January that, quote, suspends the physical entry of illegal immigrants. Now, since then, ICE has conducted operations to arrest and deport thousands of illegal immigrants in several states. Don?
And Jack, on the issue of sanctuary city laws, the DOJ has launched lawsuits against the states of New York, Illinois, and the city of Chicago. Can you tell us what the latest is on this?
Right. So what's at the heart of this is if sanctuary city laws violate federal laws by restricting local authorities from blocking ICE agents. Now, federal law prohibits state and local officials from blocking immigration officers from accessing individual citizenship status and arresting them. Now, the case against New York, for instance, Attorney General Pam Bondi has launched this. It challenges the state's green light law. Now, this green light law allows any resident of New York age 16 and up to get a driver's license, regardless of citizenship status. Now, this has resulted in thousands of illegal immigrants obtaining driver's licenses while blocking immigration enforcement from accessing that information. These governors come out and said that these ICE officers can access it as long as they have a federal warrant. Now, in announcing those lawsuits, Bondi ordered the pause of all funds to sanctuary cities. So it's yet to be determined on how they're going to react. Don?
All right, Jack, thank you very much. Next, the Department of Agriculture has been ordered to temporarily reinstate nearly 6,000 workers who lost their jobs as part of President Trump's effort to cut the federal workforce. The order from the Merit System Protection Board blocks the USDA from firing probationary employees for 45 days. The decision was issued a day after a federal judge blocked Trump from firing board member Kathy Harris. Her term expires in 3 years. The board has already halted the firing of 6 other employees at the request of the Office of Special Counsel. Trump has sought to fire the watchdog agency's head, Hampton Dellinger, as well. Dellinger revealed yesterday that he had asked the board to halt the dismissal of thousands of USDA employees. Coming up after the break, the Justice Department charges a slew of Chinese cyber actors and intelligence officials, accusing them of waging espionage attacks against U.S. government agencies, news organizations, and a faith group. That and more when we come back.
Divinely inspired traditional oil painting inspires compassion.
artwork created in truth and beauty illuminates a path to goodness. Rediscover traditional art, revive classical culture. We warmly invite oil painters from around the world to participate in the 7th NTD International Figure Painting Competition, a celebration of classical realism. Please visit oilpainting.ntdtv.com.
Hi friends, Richard Karn here. Now I'm known as the guy who can fix just about anything, but the technology in most appliances requires very special training to fix. My point is, even I know when I've met my match, and that's why my family has Choice Home Warranty. So we won't get stuck with high-priced repairs.
Choice Home Warranty covers over 25 major home systems and appliances. That's your AC, heating, plumbing, kitchen and laundry appliances, and so much more.
Imagine for less than a cup of coffee a day, Choice Home Warranty can help protect you from expensive major system and appliance breakdowns that your homeowner's insurance doesn't cover. But you have to call now before it's too late.
Every homeowner should have Choice Home Warranty. Your homeowner's insurance is not going to cover your appliances.
Washing machine, dryer, refrigerator, air condition. If I had any issues arise, they were able to take care of it immediately.
Now, homeowner's insurance won't protect you when your home's major systems and appliances break down due to normal wear and tear. But Choice Home Warranty will. They can help cover repairs and replacements.
Choice Home Warranty is the best warranty we've ever used. It would save you so much money in the long run.
Hey, I'm not the only one raving about Choice Home Warranty. They were named a Best Home Warranty Company and Best Claim Service by US News 360 Reviews.
Call Choice Home Warranty now and get access to a nationwide network of over 15,000 technicians and the latest appointment setting technology so you'll know when they're on their way.
If I have an issue with an appliance or something around the house, I just call up Choice Home Warranty and I don't have to worry about that.
So, do what this old DIYer did and call Choice Home Warranty now before something breaks down. Tell them I sent you and get your first month free.
Call Choice Home Warranty before it's too late and get protection for your heating, AC, plumbing, kitchen and laundry appliances, and more. Call for your free quote today. Call in the next 5 minutes and get your first month free. 800-360-6782. 800-360-6782.
At Mathis Home, we understand that your home is a reflection of you. And during our spring style event, we have fresh new looks that are waiting to make your home look and feel great at the lowest prices. And with all the latest styles in bloom, you'll find savings in every department. Whether it's a clean and modern sectional or a rustic and traditional dining table, we have it in stock with fast and free delivery. Come find the look that's right for you at our spring style event at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
Welcome back. The Justice Department earlier today unsealed indictments charging 12 Chinese nationals, accusing them of participating in Beijing-backed espionage activities. They include Chinese hackers and Chinese intelligence officials. It's a joint effort by the Justice Department, State Department, FBI, Treasury, and Naval Criminal Investigative Service. The State Department announced a reward of up to $2 million for information leading to the arrest or conviction of the 2 Chinese nationals. The Treasury sanctioned one of the Chinese data brokers and his Shanghai-based company. The government has taken control of all his U.S. properties and interests. According to the DOJ press release, victims of these Chinese hacking operations include a New York-based newspaper that publishes critics of the Chinese Communist Party, a religious group based in the U.S., and several U.S. governmental agencies, such as the Intelligence Agency under the Pentagon and the Commerce Department. Several Asian countries' foreign ministries are among the targets. We'll keep you posted as the case develops. A new development in the 2021 terror attack in Kabul, Afghanistan, which killed 13 American service members. Bombing suspect Mohammed Sharifullah was captured overseas. The Department of Justice said Sharifullah has been charged with providing and conspiring to provide material supporting for terrorism. The department added that a hearing is scheduled at a federal court in Virginia later today. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump invited numerous guests to last night's joint address to Congress. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on who the president welcomed.
Last night, President Trump turned to relatives of Laken Riley. The nursing student was murdered last year in Georgia while on a run.
Laken was stolen from us by a savage illegal alien
gang member. With us this evening are Lakin's beloved mother, Allison, and her sister, Lauren.
Trump also signed an executive order renaming a national wildlife refuge in Galveston in memory of a 12-year-old allegedly killed by 2 illegal immigrants. The girl's mother, Alexis, was in the gallery.
Moments ago, I formally renamed that refuge in loving memory of your beautiful daughter, Jocelyn. So, Mr. Vice President, if you would, may I have the order?
Another notable guest included DJ Daniel. The president had a surprise for the 13-year-old who is battling brain cancer.
I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service.
People gathered in London yesterday to celebrate Shrove Tuesday, the day before Lent, at the annual Inter-Livery Pancake Day races. The event, held at Guildhall Yard, marked its 21st anniversary. Teams of 4 in fancy dress or 4 reglia participate in the spirited races. Runners had to keep their costumes in place while tossing pancakes in steel frying pan.
You run to a halfway point, you flip the pancake so the pancake has to leave the pan. Then you run to the end, you turn around, and you again flip the pancake before hitting it on the table.
Great fun. There's a lovely feel here. Lots of joy and lots of getting ready for the preparation before Easter, so Lent, and lots of people coming together just to create a sense of community and history, and cheer each other on and just have a wonderful spring day.
Shrove Tuesday, commonly known as Pancake Day, precedes Ash Wednesday and is the first day of the season of Lent, the 40-day period before the Christian holiday of Easter. The victors were awarded with a trophy as well as a new frying pan. A competition for the best dressed also took place, with the winner, a man dressed as a knight named Sir Nitalot. And that's it today. Thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Mott. Stay with us for NTD Evening News at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific.